Welcome to Google Plus Week. Good to have you with us. I'm Dan McDermott in Bentonville, Virginia, the large metropolis that is Bentonville. Before we begin, let's introduce our panel. Joining us first is area code 585, asterisk. We'll talk about this. This is the new Uber feature, Uber conference, or what is it called?
Uber conference.
Okay. Also joining us
for audio conferencing, joining Hangouts. Sorry, excuse me.
No problem. Via video camera is Alan Furstenberg, somewhere near New York, maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure. Welcome, Alan.
Hey, Dan.
And then we have Craig Shipp joining us from Sarasota, Florida, where Jay Leno had the hottest ticket in town.
Yeah, and I wasn't there. I skipped it for this show.
His first show since his last Tonight Show appearance.
I could have seen Jay Leno in person, and instead I opted to be on your show tonight.
Real quick,
I can assure you we're more entertaining.
Real quick question, Craig, since you're there and Jay, since you and Jay are in the same town, although he might have fancier digs than you tonight, I'm not sure. But do you think it makes sense for them to have dumped the #1 guy for 20 years?
Well, I mean, they have to move on at some point in time, right? I don't watch the show. I'm not a big fan of broadcast television, period. But you know, I think it's fine. Jay Leno's still doing fine. He's still making plenty of money. He's got plenty of irons in the fire. So let it move on to somebody. Pass the torch. 20 years is enough time, I think.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Jay said. What do you think, Harold in Idaho, right?
Yeah. I watched Jay's last show, and it was pretty good. He's been there 22 years, and I think he's happy to move on. What I've been doing here is I've been shoveling 6 inches of snow at 10 o'clock, and then back again at 1 o'clock with another 6 inches of snow on a 100-foot driveway.
Wow.
My wife and I, of course.
Oh my God.
So you make her do most of the work.
Yeah, she does most of the work. I spend most of my time in here watching her.
There were,
that's more snow than we had down here in Sarasota.
we all want to know, does your wife have a sister who's single? Michael Ellis, welcome, sir.
Yes, that's right.
She really does.
Thank you, Dan. It's good to be back.
Good to hear you. The famous bed. We'll get at least an hour out of Michael before the Z's.
Before bedtime.
Right.
I always start the show in bed so that falling asleep is the most natural thing to do.
Indeed. Okay.
That's not a reflection on the content of the programming for those that are watching.
Pam Adger, welcome from Menifee, California. Good to have you with us.
Hi, Dan. Hi, everyone.
Your video looks very nice.
Thanks.
Have you purchased a light bulb or something?
No, same light, same camera, same computer. Everything's the same.
You reminded me to turn on the light bulb I purchased, though, Dan. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Amazon is not lost. Amazon Prime is not lost on our panel. So
right.
I do want to get Pam's real quick take on Jay Leno. It was weird. He was #1 for 2 decades. And then they basically said, okay, we got a deal. We got a new guy in place, younger guy. He's really good. There's the door.
Younger guy that we're paying less money to.
I don't. That's to be determined.
I'm sure.
What do you think, Pam?
Well, the post 11 o'clock news show ratings have been going down for a long time, and I really think that, after a while, you just have to bring in the new blood. And I don't think that Jay's that upset about it.
He doesn't seem to be. I mean, he's got bank, right? He's obviously loaded.
Have you seen his car collection?
Yeah. So it's interesting, and you bring up the point of youth. It's not just raw numbers. It's not just how many viewers there are. It's what demographic they are. And
Yeah, that
maybe
makes sense.
Kimmel,
They're
Fallon
saving money, Dan. They're paying him less money, and they're going down the tubes anyway. So why not cut costs when you can?
I mean, that's an overly simplistic view, rare coming from you, of course, but it could be that even with lower
but
numbers with the
truthful.
new guy, they could attract a younger audience, which would result in more
Any
money
audience,
from
Dan. The
ads.
audience is fleeing. They're not attracting any audience.
He had 14.5 million last night. How many did your last hangout get?
The audience is going down. It's contracting. It is not expanding.
They're dying of old age.
It is not expanding, Dan.
That's the need for the new guy.
You're
Alan,
you're in a dream world if you think they're gaining viewers.
I didn't say that.
You
Cadeas joins
implied
us.
it. You
Cadeas,
implied it.
freshly ran. I was just trolling you, Craig. Cadeas, welcome.
You can't do that. It doesn't work. I'm the troll here.
Absolutely. Freshly ramened out, all on a salt high. It'll be all bloated for the next 24 hours. Welcome, Cadeas.
Right.
Hello, Cadeas. How are you? You may speak. You're muted, buddy. He looks really good, though, doesn't he?
I don't think he's muted. I think his microphone isn't working.
Oh, it'd be nice if I unmute myself. Yeah, sorry, I'm doing good. Just came off a long journey across the country.
Where are you? Are you back in California or in Tokyo?
I'm back at home. Barely making it to the show.
I saw you were driving through all sorts of crazy weather or something.
Yeah, it's been crazy.
Awesome. Okay, so Alan, before we get on our first topic, just a real quick thing, a reaction from you. What do you think about the Jay Leno thing? Do you think it's Jay's? Obviously, we all agree Jay's handled it brilliantly. But do you think it makes sense? Do you think he's getting screwed, or this is fair? You know, he had a good 20-year run, and it's time. Now Alan's muted.
Yeah, I was muted because I really don't care.
Okay.
I asked what network he was on.
Boy, I know how to pick these topics.
NBC.
And so he's the one who ended up on NBC. I don't care. I just don't care.
22 years ago.
I'm not even sure I've ever watched his version of The Tonight Show. I just don't care.
Okay.
And therein lies the problem.
I don't see that problem.
No, the people don't care. They're not watching anymore. They're losing
That's not a
viewers,
problem.
and they were paying him a ton of
Problem
money.
for NBC, he's saying.
They were paying him a ton of money, so they've got to
Yep.
cut their costs a little bit.
All
We've
right.
already got some comments on this point. So, for example, Kevin can breathe again because we got started. He also points out that Craig is right. Note your calendars now. Whoever replaces Leno will never earn Leno money again. Sai comments, The Tonight Show has the wrong demographic. Networks want the younger crowds. They spend the money.
And networks aren't going to get them, no matter what they do.
All right.
If they showed boobs.
Which
No, they
can't.
wouldn't, because the younger
You can
set
get
have a
boobs,
lot
you
of
can get
other
boobs for
places.
free on the internet. Who
Yeah,
cares?
they have a lot of other places to get boobs.
I have boobs on my tablet and my phone.
Dan will even put boobs on this show if it'll get him ratings.
I think one night Pam had a few too many, and
There you go.
we came close.
There you go.
Okay, so anyway,
That's why I tune in every week, and even on the weeks when I can't be on the panel, I tune in just in case. This is the week.
this could be the one. Nice Cabernet or Merlot there with Michael Ellis. Ready.
Of course.
Several pillows handy. Okay, so there was some late breaking, really minor, and could be short-lived. But as of this afternoon, and someone stuck it in as a first topic, so let's hit it. It appears that Google has become the second most valuable U.S. company behind Apple. I think I'll show you how to find out if you want to check. What we're talking about here is market capitalization, right? Market cap. So if you just go to Google and you type market cap, and then the company name, let's look at Exxon and see where they are at the end of the trading day. And right in Google, you'll see it here. They're at $395.7 billion. So let's call that $396 billion. And then let's go to Google and see where they are. And I'm not sure why. Okay, yeah, it is. Market cap Google is 395. So they're no longer the second most. They're 395.4. Yeah, so they just lost.
So, as I say, the story was they were briefly, for the first time, number 2. So they exceeded Exxon in market capitalization for a brief period, and the story says that even. So they dropped back to number 3. But it just illustrates the fact that, Apple's number 1, Google's number 3. Technology is going to be more valuable than oil. And oil used to be 1, 2, and 3.
That is amazing that 2 of the top 3. I mean, oil is traditionally, of course, the legend of Standard Oil and Rockefeller, which was split up, and all these oil companies are really the legacy pieces in the same way that in our parents' lifetimes, Ma Bell was split up, or in Craig's lifetime, I should say. Ma Bell was split up into different pieces, and that's where you see these different phone companies of today. The same thing happened with Standard Oil. They were split up, and that's where Exxon came from. I think several of the modern companies.
Two things to say about this. The first is, and how well did Twitter do today? I see they were up actually after taking a nosedive the other day. So, information technology is not exactly all it's cracked up to be.
Also, you see these stories and they're like, Facebook crashes or Facebook soars, whatever. And you look at the long-term graph and you see you see this, and then there's a little tiny spike or a drop, right? Minuscule, but it's, oh my God, the 70 points or 5% of their value. But if you look at the upward trend or the downward trend or what have you, that's what matters. It's, what it does in a day. Or the stock market for most people is not a good place to do very short-term thinking or short-term investing. Any other thoughts on this?
Sell, sell, sell.
All new media companies? Should we buy broadcast networks?
Get out while you can.
No, the Dow's been down after the first of the year too. So I just think there's investing today is nothing like what it used to be. So.
And it never was.
What's the Colbert book? Like the title symbol of that? Okay, so that was a bonanza of a topic. For several hours, Google was the second most valuable company in the United States based on market capitalization. So there we go. Okay, so next up is a topic obviously Alan is well versed to discuss because this is very exciting. We tried to get Chi on, but he's asleep because he's in Zurich. Chi Chu from Google, who's in charge of Hangouts and all things in Kirkland. So they have released a product. It's based on their enterprise technology, which Alan and I discussed this today. It's in every office, in every Google conference room worldwide. They were using Hangout technology prior to the what we think of as Hangouts, and what they were using in-house in partnership, I think, with Vidyo, VIDYO. They developed that for a consumer level product, which was the first version of Hangouts. So now they've basically, I think in a post today, Chi Chu said that they basically took the stuff that they have been using in all these conference rooms and came up with consumer products and a model that would work so they could sell it. It's $1,000. So let's hear from Alan first. anything you want to say about this, because you have a Chrome box, and this is a very high-end Chrome box. It's an i7, which you can't buy. I think it's the highest-end Chrome box out there. And they said that it wouldn't work otherwise for what they want to do. It appears to be largely self-contained. I mean, you can obviously put a monitor up so you can see the other person. But it's a pretty nifty idea. What do you think about it? And then let's go to Ellis, because he's someone who works with folks and does this kind of thing, and he could tell us if he thinks it's practical. Go ahead, Alan.
So I don't know, it's interesting. I'm actually kind of curious to see how this plays out. I've seen a lot of people's first reaction to it was along the lines of, well, if I've already got Hangouts, what does this get me? And it isn't until someone says, well, you know, the nearest competing technology like this is 10 times the price, that you start to wonder, well, okay, that's interesting, but you know, Skype did this. We used to have these Skype things. So it's going to be, I think the proof is going to be in just how easy it is to really use. That said, I've been in some of Google's conference rooms where technology similar to this has worked, and it's amazing how easy it is. You literally walk in, you turn it on, and it just works. I've talked to friends from Google, and they're all incredibly excited to see this happening, because it's one of the things that they love about Google. That and, you know, lunch are two of the best things that Google does.
Now, this is from what we don't know a whole lot because neither of us have touched this yet, but this is a dedicated device. In other words, this is not. Is this a standard Chrome box that you could do other things with, or this is a dedicated? The way a DVD player is more efficient at playing a DVD than a DVD player in your computer is. You know what I mean?
Well,
it works better.
Two aspects to it. It does sound like it is a standard Chrome box, although one that is not yet on the market. There was some rumors leaking out that this was going to be on the market in March, and then this came out and it kind of surprised people. But it sounds like it is a standard Chrome box. The big thing about Chrome boxes is that in a enterprise environment or in a school environment, you can control what's on them and what will run on them. And one of the things that you get with this Chrome box is an annual contract to manage it.
It's $250 a year, right?
$250 a year. First year is included in the price, which is, you know, it's not peanuts, but it's compared to what the standard industry annual charge for these sort of things are. It is peanuts. But it does mean that you have control over what the box does and can do. So you're not going to have somebody randomly using it to mess around with. It's going to be limited to only the applications that the administrators choose to let run on it. Now, that might include things like Google Docs, because that's a valuable enterprise technology. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's limited to Hangouts and only Hangouts. So I think it's a clever angle.
So I'm going to do a quick screen share for folks to see what this is. It's $1,000, so you get the Chrome box, and it is an i7 processor. There is not a i7 Chrome box. I think the highest end one is like an i5 other than this, right?
Dan, if there was an i7 Chrome box, would you still call it ghetto?
That was a dig just then. Just then.
No, it was a sincere question.
I don't know. I forget what see, he takes these things out of context. But anyway.
No, that was the context.
It takes more to make a computer than just a processor. There's a lot of details involved. So
here we go. Let me show what this is. I'm just on the actual Google site showing this. It's called Chromebox for Meetings, or what the hell is it? Is it Chromebox for Meetings, right? So it comes with four pieces. You get a Chromebox, the highest end Chromebox you can get. You get, they don't mention it, but obviously this is a Logitech webcam. It looks like a C920, which is what I use. When you see me, you're seeing me through this, and then at least the show, not you guys. That's a lower end one. And then there's a speaker. I forget the brand, but I have one of these in my car. Not this model, the car version. And then there's some kind of remote control, I guess, so you wouldn't need to use a keyboard. You'd obviously have to plug a monitor into it and some kind of internet.
The remote control has a keyboard on the other side.
And I would point out, as far as our previous conversations about Ethernet versus Wi-Fi, it does note that this does have Ethernet and dual band 802.11. So this is probably maybe a little more expensive than if you'd bought these components, because the Chrome box is probably what, a $500 box if you could buy it. I don't know, Alan. What do you think? What would this
I have
retail
absolutely
for?
no clue.
The
What-
Chromebox is $279 if you buy one right now, a regular Chromebox.
Yeah, but this isn't a Chromebox that's currently available right now.
So let's assume this was $500 Chrome box. The camera is $70. The speaker, I don't know, I would guess $100 or $200. The remote controls, obviously a custom thing, $1,000 builds in a little profit. But yeah, as Alan was saying, my conventional enterprise conferencing systems are horrifically expensive. My sister was a vice president of a company that did that, and they were big money. And I talked to Harry Forsheimer from Silicon Graphics back in the 90s, and they had a system, and it was a box that they would send. I forget what it was called, but you'd have to get a dedicated T1 line, which was like $3,000 a month by the time you pay the phone company for the internet, all this stuff. Very, very expensive. And to be able to buy them for $1,000 a pop and have them work reliably every time, that's a big deal. Michael Ellis, are you with us? Okay. Anybody who wants to weigh in on the what you guys think of this? I think this is.
Well, I
interesting. We'll see.
definitely like it. I've been waiting for a device like this to come out for a while now, particularly for Hangouts, and so I definitely gonna jump on this as soon as it comes out. $1,000 is really not that much, so I definitely jump on
Well,
that.
that's
don't
for one end of
understand.
it, right? You got to have do you have to have the same thing on the other end?
I don't understand the advantage of this versus just using a laptop.
The advantage to this, Craig, is that it's some of it's hard to tell, hard to get details on. But it basically ends up being that you walk into a room, you hit the power switch, and you're video conferencing. You don't
With
have
whom?
logins, you don't have rendezvous issues. There are a lot of things that you end up not having to deal with. It just
But
works.
doing a Hangout isn't really that hard. If you use Facebook to share the link with the people that are going to be in the Hangout, and then they
Okay,
just
so that's already one thing that you don't need to do with this setup.
well, everybody's on Facebook, so that's not a
I think the difference is what they're trying to get to is like if you get a Blu-ray player from Walmart or Best Buy for a television set, and you put the Blu-ray player, you put the Blu-ray disc in there, and you hit play. The options are play, stop, reverse, fast forward. That's it. It just works every time. That's all it does, and that's what they're trying to
Yeah,
get to
but
with
you're
this. I
still
think.
going to have to invite people to this, aren't you? Somehow?
Well, but here's the thing, Craig. If you've already set up a meeting ahead of time in your calendar, everyone just, gets connected to it based on that meeting.
Well, I'll have to see that work to believe it.
Oh, Dan, I worked.
Craig, let me put it this way, Craig. If it's anything like what they're using in their conference rooms, and from everything I understand, it is, yes, it just works. Just like that.
Well, then that probably will be good. But again, I'll believe it when I see it.
Harold, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I work with a lot of these with the school districts and stuff that we have to hook up, and one of the biggest companies is Prometheus, and Prometheus, like you said, is they basically have to. What we did is we installed this at University of UVU, and we installed one way over at all the chapter houses over in Rough Rock, over there, and like I say, it cost a couple $1,000s to get the camera and everything hooked up so we could broadcast. And so basically you're spending about $1,000 there for the big TV, the camera, the sound, and everything. So it's about $2,000 for each location. That's one of the things. And then the other things it's competing against is Adobe Connect. Adobe Connect costs about $2,000 a month. Some of these cost $200 to $2,000 a month to use these services like Adobe Connect and GoToMeeting and things like that.
What's the Cisco one that's ridiculously expensive?
That's WebEx. WebEx, do you have to pay a certain amount for WebEx per month? It's only about, for a small meeting with only 20 users, it's basically about $30 a month. But if you go to 100 users, it's something like $200 a month. And there's a lot of limits on that.
So now, on this new thing, can they do Hangouts on air as well as just a regular Hangout?
You mean can it be recorded?
Can this be a hangout on air, or can it just be a regular hangout?
I didn't notice if it could be recorded or not. I didn't read about that.
No, I mean broadcast as a hangout on air, which is obviously recorded. Can they do a hangout on air with this device?
Well, they should. I'm sure they can, because the whole purpose, because a regular hangout can't be right now can't be recorded, and that would be a major purpose for this. All these other services like WebEx and all of these have a built-in recording. You can record the whole event.
Yeah,
so if they're going to compete with these things, they have to have it recorded.
So you can also broadcast it live, like we're doing right now?
We don't know. I mean, I don't think we know.
Yeah, it's a lot. You can broadcast it live.
Okay, well then if you can do all that, but again, I just don't think it's that hard to start a hangout the way we do it. As long as you have a way to share the link, a reliable way to share the link via email or whatever, that's all they really need is the link to click and get in.
Yeah, what they're saying is basically it's up to 15 people.
Yeah, now that's a benefit. That's a benefit because it's more people. So if you
and
need...
also, it said you can have 100 people join by phone after the 15.
The up to 15 people is just the limit that apps users can have right now. So that's not radically different. And joining by phone is the Uber conference thing, which we'll be discussing in a minute.
Well, we'll see. I mean, like Craig's right. The proof's in the pudding. You know, we'll see what happens. But there is a market. And I could tell you that the reason they spend big money, like the school systems and corporations, is because they want a rock-solid thing that works. That's why I go to my analogy of the DVD player versus the DVD player in a computer. They want it to work 100% real quick, fast, reliably, and they'll spend whatever it takes. The government, enterprise users, they got the money, they want reliability. So if this can deliver that kind of reliability and stability at a ridiculously low price point compared to the enterprise competition, then I think it's going to be a player. If it turns out to be kludgy, as Craig would say, then it's the Nexus Q. Because the market who would tolerate that in this space would just use regular Hangouts on a laptop, as Craig says, rather than buy something for $1,000, which has a $250 a year subscription fee. And I assume that's per spot, right? Because like you got to have at least 2 of these, or can someone join with a regular Hangout into this? Do we know?
You can join with a regular Hangout. At least I'm assuming you can join with a regular Hangout if it's anything like Google's.
I'm guessing this is easier, more reliable, and simpler, or it wouldn't exist, because otherwise, I mean, you could just have a laptop in every conference room, as Craig says.
Right, but if you put a laptop in every conference room, you also need to have the person log into the laptop. You need to, set up the Hangout. You know, it's not as quick and transparent. If their description,
they need
their
to
description
click
of
on
this,
a link, for gosh sakes.
Their description of this was, and let me see if I can find it again. And I can't find it quickly now. Is basically you walk in, you turn it on, you're conferencing.
Well,
and maybe it has better quality.
Somebody has to set it up then. Somebody has to set up the event, invite everybody to it, coordinate it, do all that. I mean, it's still, something has to happen. It isn't just going to do it by osmosis.
Sure, but that's setting up an event. The same way you schedule a meeting now, you schedule a meeting under this system. The difference is that you also say what conference room it is, and it just works.
Okay.
Well, once we'll find out. I wish Chi could have made it. He could have really smacked Craig up alongside the head because I'm sure they've been using this. So we're all speculating now.
Here's the quote. Walk into the room, click the remote once, and you're instantly in the meeting. No more complex dialing codes, passcodes, or leader pins. Share your laptop screen wirelessly. No need for any cords and adapters. Integration with Google Apps makes it easy to invite others and add rooms to video meetings directly from Google Calendar.
It sounds like if it's all it's cracked up to be, and they've been using this for years, and I drew an analogy to Amazon Web Services, where they were using this, and then they decided, you know what, we can probably sell this, build it up a little bit, and sell the our Amazon
Wait,
Web
but
Network.
Back up a second to what Alan just said. If you take everything that he said right there, and you preface it by saying, we take a link and we email it to the 15 people that are going to be in the meeting, and they click on the link. No more pins, no more this, no more that. You could add all of those things onto that as well. I mean, you still don't have to do any of those things. You just
How do you get the link?
Just email it to them.
No.
Everybody has email.
We don't know yet. I mean,
how
this
do you
is.
get
I
the
don't want
link?
to.
Whoever creates the Hangout copies the link.
So
like
the
I could
first
do
person
right
in
now,
needs to do it.
or whoever, your admin or whoever it is that says, somebody's got to set this thing up anyway, right? Somebody's got to set up the Hangout anyhow.
Well, but again,
set up itself.
if all setting it up is creating an event in a calendar, which is what your admin does now, that's fine.
No. Well, I'm just saying, whatever he has to do, he creates the Hangout, he gets the freaking link, and he shares it with the 15 people, and they click on it, and they're in. I mean, it's not rocket science.
Well, you say that, but then Michael Ellis couldn't get in this show.
Well,
Harold
again,
never saw the post,
but
even though.
Dan, did you email everybody the link? You didn't. That's why. You didn't message it to them on Facebook. You didn't email it to them. You relied on Google's internal navigation and all that crap that we know doesn't work.
I don't
But
think
if you were to take that link and you were to email it to him, and he were to click on it in the freaking email, he would come in and hang out.
Craig, I'd
Michael
also
Ellis
point
did
out-
that. He clicked on the link and he said it was a bad link, and then I
Did
sent
you
it.
email him the link right
Craig,
to this Hangout?
Jesus Christ,
Craig,
Craig, we don't know how we don't know how it's going to work yet. We will in a couple weeks. This is stupid. This is like arguing about the spelling of a word for 3 hours when we don't have a dictionary handy. We're going to have one in a week.
Why are you arguing the point? My point is solid. It is not hard.
Your
If you
point
share
is,
the link
but it's out
properly-
of ignorance. You haven't seen the device. Nobody's seen the device. Nobody's used the device. Nobody's got a hands-on experience with the device.
Oh, I'm
we'll
saying,
have
no,
that in a week
I'm not,
or two.
I'm not commenting on this device. I'm commenting on how easy it is right now to get 15 people in a freaking Hangout if you got an apps account. It ain't hard. Why do we have to make it any easier is my point.
No, I disagree. I tried it for this show. I tried an apps account so I could get more than 10 people in, and it was a fail, a massive fail, and because you all weren't logged into Google with the same domain, the WCRTV.com domain, and so if you left, like if your internet failed and you tried to get back in, you couldn't. I had to re-invite you during the show. It was a complete fiasco. That was very kludgy.
So apps accounts can't invite other people into their Hangout. Well, that's something that should be fixed then.
This was early on. This was early on.
As far as I know, Dan, it still doesn't work,
that's
though.
a nasty bug then. But of course,
Yeah, so what's the point? And when you
just
try
do a
to
regular
do this,
Hangout with 10 freaking people and give them the link, and hopefully you don't need 15 in there. And if you need 15 in there, then I guess you got to buy this thing.
Craig, so let me step back one and make sure I understand. So you're saying that it is trivially easy for somebody at the correct time to go create the Hangout. So let's step back. So you're saying the flow works like this. We schedule appointments in the calendar just like we do currently. Okay. At some point, the person who is going to be managing it or heading up the meeting or whatever, either goes to the room in question, logs in, starts up the Hangout, startup, and then cuts and pastes the link that has come up there to everybody else.
Yeah.
So that, at some point within 5, 10, or 20 minutes after the scheduled start of the Hangout, everyone's finally gotten the link and has joined, and we can now start our meeting.
He could do that well in advance if he wanted to. He doesn't have to do it. He can do it half an hour before the meeting.
So an hour before the meeting, they now need to start up a Hangout, do all of that, and distribute the link.
Just like you would do with a show, just like I do with the Monday night show. I do it a certain number of minutes before the show so that I'm sure I've got the thing started and all that, and I've got the link so I can share it with the principals of the show. I use Facebook Messenger because it works all the time. But whatever method you use, you get them that link, and then at the appropriate time, they click on the link and they come in.
Okay, whereas what I'm saying and what I believe this system does is I schedule the event, the link is automatically created and associated with the event. Okay, I've now done nothing. The link is there so that somebody else can now join even before I've shown up.
Now you can probably
And we
do
can
that
now
with
get
Hangouts
going.
right now, right? Can't you do that with regular Hangouts right now? I mean, it always asks me
Well, but as you said,
when I create an event for Hangout on Air. Now I don't use that function, but it always asks. I mean, does anybody know if you can do that with Hangouts right now?
I think there are some features that let you do that, but the problem is it's ridiculously complex to manage.
It's too complex. I agree with Alan.
Yeah,
I do this a lot,
Send them the link.
and it's
And-
really complex.
And I see in the help community that, you know, if Skype is running in the background, it also hijacks your camera and your microphone.
Oh
and
yeah, you can't
join,
use it with
and,
Skype
you
at
know,
all. It's a disaster.
So, and most people don't even know that. And so it's not as easy as you think.
There's all
Well, I'm
kinds
sure
of
idiots will be able to
problems.
screw this thing up too. This new thing. I'm sure
Well,
they'll be able to screw that up
But
too.
what we're talking about, Alan, I
Idiots
need to
are
ask
pretty
a
good at screwing
question.
up almost
If you guys
anything.
can hear me, I don't know.
Yep, we can hear you, Michael. Go
Okay,
ahead.
thank you. Do you have to have the device in two places, like one in one room and one in the opposing room?
No, from what I understand, and again, I'm making a number of assumptions, and some of my assumptions are based on what I've seen, and some of it are based on what I've heard. But my understanding is that since this uses Hangouts as the back end, anybody who has the ability to join a Hangout will be able to join this.
Well, this is a home run then, because I mean, for my application, because I do this with groups that are many of the times that I do this, the people are completely not familiar with Google. It's everything I can get them to do to have an account, even though they so often will have one anyway. They don't even know they have one, and that they use it for YouTube. So this device is a great thing to put in a fraternity chapter house where we want to have remote alumni communicating with them regularly. They just could plug it in and turn it on with a calendar entry, and everyone could join. If that worked, that would be magnificent and very simple.
So you're saying that the participants have to have a Google Gmail account?
Yes, they do have to have a Gmail account.
Well, no, they have to have a Google account to be specific.
The only way to get one is to have a Gmail account.
No, that's not correct.
Wouldn't
You have to have
one
a
if
Google
this
account.
device is in
You-
the conference room of the company and it's the thing that's connected.
Guys, just a timeout here. I'm again quoting the blog entry. Quote, need to meet with a customer who doesn't use Chromebox for meetings? That's easy too. All they need is a Gmail account.
They need a Google account to be real specific.
So
They don't have to have a Gmail
somebody
email
can join
address.
you from Timbuktu that doesn't have this device.
But the thing is that a Google account is a Gmail account. That's the same thing.
But it's not. But it's important to
And so
distinguish,
they would
because
join
people
just
hear
like
that and they
anybody
think that
else with
means
some kind of an
they
invite, or somebody would
no.
send
They
them a
think
link or
that
whatever.
means, Cadeus, that they have to use Gmail. They have to have a
Or
Gmail
be on their
email
calendar
address,
or
and they
whatever,
do
and
not.
Click on something on their
I give you that.
calendar.
It's an important distinction, because one of the big barriers to entry to this thing is everybody thinks that Google's trying to capture them and make them give up Hotmail or AOL or whatever else crap email they
I say
use.
everybody just use the free version and don't worry about it.
Well, again, we're going to know after hands-on reviews come out.
Well, Dan,
Um,
I just put in the chat room a Polycom. The Polycom system is the one I put in this local chat room
Can
here.
you
and
screen
it's
share, because
2,300.
the viewers can't see that? Can you?
Well, it's basically the Polycom 500 video system is $2,395.
Is it? I guess a self-contained thing. How does it compare? Probably it's probably proprietary. So every point that every
conference room has to have one.
Yes.
right.
Right.
Whereas in this case, we're sure, Alan, that you could have a conference room. Let's say a PR person and the CEO and the division manager, department manager were considering hiring Harold Carey to do whatever for them, and they wanted to have
Do I
a
need
meeting.
to quote this again?
Say again.
Do I need to quote this page again?
Okay, so they definitely don't need. They could just have a Gmail account
Yes.
and a webcam and a regular computer, and they're in.
Yes.
So the satellite, you could still have free satellite participants, for lack of a better term, conversing with the main conference room, which would have this.
Yes.
Yeah, but you can with WebEx too.
And you can
As long as
duplicate
you
this.
have
All of this is off-the-shelf hardware. Logitech C920, a regular speakerphone you could probably buy at Best Buy.
Right. The question is the management software, and what's not clear, and I think this is the aspect of the whole thing that's least clear, is just how much is it going to be the software. There are components to this that aren't entirely off the shelf. The remote control seems like it's at least I won't say it's a totally custom job, but it sounds like it's not your straightforward usual, $5 remote control from Radio Shack.
The key is that all the stuff, the software is designed to work specifically with this hardware. So theoretically and hopefully it would be plug and play, bam, it's really easy. So it just simplifies it. Because it's still, Oleg is a computer programmer, and I'm trying to get him in the Hangout. I direct shared the post with him, and he didn't get that. And then I said, check my stream. He didn't see. There he is now. And then we're arguing about whether it's easier to get people into Hangouts. And so I sent the notification out. Michael Ellis clicked on the link. It didn't work. You didn't get the notification. You didn't see it. Then I sent you the link in a pop-up chat. And this is crazy. This is too difficult. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I did get a notification that Michael got.
I can't understand. If you sent them the link to this Hangout, and
the link didn't work. The link didn't work.
Why the heck could they not get in the Hangout?
Yeah, it didn't work. It said not available. I got the same thing.
Yeah.
But then when how did I
No,
forget what I
you
did.
get a 404 error. When I click on the link, I get a 404
Yes, they get a 404
that's
error.
right.
So he sent you the link I just put in the chat?
It's
You
the
sent
link
me the
that
link
should be above the
in chat.
Hangout
So-
you're in.
Yeah, so that's the link right there, and you clicked on it and it wouldn't let you in.
Well, I have to say I don't know if it's
That's news
exactly
to
the
me.
same
No,
link.
no, it was basically whatever he put on his post.
Yeah,
But
well,
right
he
now
probably
there's a
didn't send you the right link then. Yeah, he
That's
probably
why
didn't
we
send
just
you the
join
correct
Hangout.
URL.
right now.
I think if you send the correct URL, I think it pretty much works.
I think we're beating a dead horse here, people.
We're beyond that. I think we've left the barn. Every cliche I can think of. Okay, so that's not the only news. I guess the logical is the next thing the call-in feature.
Right.
Why don't you discuss that? Because I tried it today and it sounded like an Atari game making weird noise when I first installed it. But maybe you can explain it, and I'll screen share real quick. This is the actual Hangout here, and if you look on the bottom left for the viewers, you'll see a phone number there, or part of it, and that is a test we did. So go ahead, Michael. Tell us what this is and how this is different from being able to simply call someone within a Hangout. What's different about this?
Okay, so I had to do a little exploration to figure it out because the post that I saw wasn't completely clear to me how it worked, but now I think I understand. As you all know, when you normally use a telephone conferencing system, there's a phone number that gets published, and usually there's a PIN number published with it to all the participants. The organizer dials normally an 800 number or sometimes not an 800 number and initiates the conference with his organizer's PIN code, and then all the participants dial in at a time of their choosing in time for the meeting typically, and they enter their PIN number, and then they're announced into the meeting by usually an automated system of some kind, an automated voice, and then you record something like your name, and then you get introduced to the group. So that does like a roll call sort of thing. That's a normal telephone conferencing system. There's a new Hangout app called Uber Conference, without an umlaut, which annoys us German speakers tremendously. Uber Conference, which lets you connect the audio conferencing capability that Uber Conference is very good at, apparently, into a regular Hangout. So from the Hangout, I can launch the app, initiate the hosting phone call, the organizer's phone call, and it issues me a unique telephone number and PIN code that becomes I'm told from this that it's my permanent phone number and PIN code, and I can share that with my participants. Perhaps even now I know it, I can share it in advance with them. And then they, at their leisure, can call in, and now, along with the film strip of people we have in the Hangout, with video and audio, we have people dialing in. We may have people dialing into our conference, into our Hangout. What's exciting about that is Uber Conference can support up to 100 dialed-in participants in the conference. So imagine, or the first thing that came to my mind was the panel that we have assembled here is a panel of experts on a variety of topics. We cover topics in the show, and we invite a call-in model where members of the audience dial in and participate, ask questions. And there's apparently in this application the ability to control it a bit, mute callers, mute individual people, drop them out of the call if you need to. So all the stuff that you get with normal conference calling systems, you get with this, but you get the control of it inside a Hangout.
This is very similar to Blog Talk Radio, which I started out with. When I first started this program, it was everyone was joining by voice, and that's I think Alan and Oleg and Pam are the three who are still with the show when it was Blog Talk Radio, and I had an 800 number they would call in, and just to append what Michael was saying, that he's describing the free service. There's also a paid version, which is only $10 a month, and then you don't have a PIN, and you have a dedicated phone number, and then for an additional $10, you can have an 800 number.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that part.
Now, I don't know if that's $10 a year or a one-time fee or $10 a month, but basically you can have, you could say we do a show, and you could email guests and say we're starting at 7 o'clock. Just dial this phone number. It's the same phone number every time. There's no PIN, and $10 a month is dirt cheap for something like this.
Yeah.
So it is interesting, and the not having the limit of 10 is less of a deal now than it was in the past. Because in the past we would start the show and we'd be slammed. I could start a private Hangout, not HOA, just a regular Hangout, and it would immediately fill up with people around the world. But now Discovery they're trying to work on it, I think, but it's not like what it was. But that's how a lot of us met. So anyway, go ahead. Who else wants to weigh in on this?
Well, I just had a quick question on the on the Hangout side. When you're using this app, are you able to see who is? Let's say you had 100 people in the Uber side, are you able to see who is talking, or there's no display for that side of it?
Yeah, thank you, Cadeus. I forgot to touch on that point. It's an important distinction. So different than something like freeconferencecall.com, where all you have is people dialing in. With Uber Conference, in the Hangout app, you get a window that shows you the social profiles of the people that are connected by audio. It seems to know I don't know how it knows. I haven't found that out yet. It seems to know who they are.
It knows that.
Yeah, I don't know how it knows.
Using caller ID and matching it to your profile, or what?
That must be what it does. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's the central number that you're calling, so there is no caller ID, right?
No, but there's caller ID from the participant who's dialing into the centralized number.
Oh, because they each have a unique PIN?
No, because we each have a unique phone number that we're calling from.
Yes.
Right.
It uses my caller ID, tries to match that up with my with the number I have on my. I'm guessing now.
So
actually, hey Dan, what's the phone number?
But you don't have.
I don't have it in. Michael loaded it.
But you don't.
I have
it. You don't have.
Just a moment.
Michael, could you please drop it in chat? Sorry, Pam.
I will. Yes, I'm doing it now.
Go ahead, Pam.
There's no need to use your phone to call, right? You can use your computer, or do you have to use your phone?
No, the idea is for participants who cannot be at their computer to dial. To come into the Hangout, they can come in with a telephone application. That's the idea.
So it is just like the conference calls that I'm on all week long.
Absolutely, it's exactly like that. Yes.
Yeah, but I'm sure, Pam, to address your question, I'm sure you can use regular Gmail phone calling to call into it. It should work exactly the same way.
Yeah, I don't have a Gmail phone number.
No. I mean, you can use Gmail to dial out, and I'm sure you can use that. You don't have to use a phone if you don't want to.
Okay, I've never
outbound phone numbers.
Is this basically we have the existing functionality? If you're in a Hangout, like right now, any of us could dial a number. Isn't it just the reverse? Where what this offers is they can dial into the Hangout, which you couldn't do before, and there's some control panel functionality with it that Michael was referring to. Isn't that basically the difference between what we have now and what this is?
Yes.
Yeah, but considering how long you've been asking for this feature, Dan, you just trivialized it pretty much.
Michael,
Yeah,
No, no,
it's
I'm
pretty
for it.
powerful.
I
for
missed
it.
I missed your description. So does every Hangout on Air automatically get a PIN number?
It doesn't have to be a Hangout on Air. It's anyone who starts this app can retrieve for himself.
But it works in Hangouts on Air.
I don't know that, but I
Do we
think
know?
so. Are we in a Hangout on Air now?
No.
No, we're not.
Okay.
Okay, so I don't know the answer then.
Okay, yeah, we need to figure that out because that's.
So I posted in the chat box the phone number, our phone number for dial-in for this Hangout.
And I just
So-
dialed it.
Okay, and are you in it? Are you in with us then, Oleg?
I'm
I'm in with you,
and I
and I can hear you through my
Yeah.
phone.
So please mute yourself on your Hangout participation so we can hear you through your phone.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, and now I hear you just fine.
But the
And
bigger
how-
question is, remember we talked about the caller ID? You don't see it's me.
Just a moment, I'm
They
looking.
put some hashtags in there to block
I
your
do
number.
see.
This is
I
bringing
don't
back
see that
old
it's you.
memories. I remember the old days. Oleg was on the phone. Don't call me Russian guy. On the phone, screaming at me.
No, I can tell you that it seems to be showing a Google Map segment, thumbnail of Seattle, Washington. Would that be close to where you are?
Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, I live where the Super Bowl winners are.
And it shows
Okay, so it
585.
maybe it would be helpful if I share my screen and so people can see the app
The
as it
problem
appears
if you
in the
do
Hangout.
that is so they're not going to see the chat with the phone number, correct?
I think they might.
Are you calling? Are you calling from a 585 area code?
I'm calling from area code 425.
Okay, because it's
No, the 585 number is the number of the Uber conference, not the number they issued
that's what I
to us.
dialed. That's what I dialed. Yes, that's what I dialed.
That's
Well, you put a 716 number though in the chat.
716 is what Oleg should have dialed.
I dialed whatever you put in the chat, whatever the hell that number was. That's what I called.
What
So
is-
Yeah,
It's actually-
716 is what I put in chat.
where does the
The-
585 number come from? I guess is what I'm asking.
Uber issues that number when it dials to the control center from the Hangout.
This is so
So
easy.
that's the-
This is much easier than
Yeah.
before.
No,
No,
it's
see, this
it's
is
perfectly
completely
easy to
different, guys.
operate. We
Guys.
just don't.
This is really cool because I can see you and I can also talk to you just on the phone. I mean, how cool is this?
Yeah,
And you can
That's-
see me.
Dan,
Yeah, we
Dan,
just have to find out if it works in a Hangout on Air. That's the relevant thing here, because most people
Isn't
aren't.
this a hangout on air?
No.
No, most people aren't going to do this.
so I want to say that I can also
Can we mute him?
I can also record the audio.
Drop it down.
That's the first thing Pam wants to know.
I suppose
If
we
he
could mute
starts
it. That's a
trolling
good
us, we're
idea.
gonna mute his ass.
I just want to know
No,
if it's
actually-
possible.
The Hangout, someone took our photo.
That's it.
The phone call for Uber
I'm gonna
only
block your
allows
ass
for
for that.
Hangout.
Okay, I'm hanging up.
Okay. I don't know if people were able to see that, what I shared, or
I'd like
not.
to stay on because I wanted to call in as well and see what happens when you have two people calling in. So
Okay, I can
call
call
back
back.
in.
I can call back.
And I'm going to share my screen again. Are people able to see that?
I don't know. We'll see.
Okay, well, I'll share again.
We run the risk of getting trolled for the rest of the night.
Yes, we do. Oh, because then they see the phone number.
Now they
Well,
see
okay.
me wiping my nose.
That's okay. I saw it too.
I don't think you have to worry about that.
Okay, I'm back.
Oleg, welcome back.
Thank you.
And now we don't see Oleg. We don't see you as you exactly, but it looks like is there a phone number there for you? There is. Are you in area code 428? Is that what that says?
425, I hope.
425. Yeah,
I see
yeah.
585. This reminds me of the Downton Abbey episode when they finally got a phone installed.
No,
the first telephone.
no,
They're all
Dan,
trying to figure out.
you're
which
looking
end
in the
you're
wrong
talking
place.
to. Where should
Yeah.
I be looking?
And now I see 913 area code, and that might be
That
Alan.
must be Alan. Yeah.
Click on the Uber app, Dan, so you're seeing the Uber app on the right side instead of instead of the Hangout chat.
Am I gonna screw this
And
thing
in
up?
that, no, I don't think so.
All right,
Unless
I'm gonna try
bandwidth
to-
is a
I'm gonna
problem.
try to do this. This is okay. So
Alan, can you
I'll
hear
show
me?
Here we got the Uber app. And,
Alan? Alan, can you hear me?
he's trying to dial
We
in.
do not hear
I'm on the
you.
phone yet.
He's trying to call in.
Oh, yes, but not on the phone. Okay, I see that.
I don't want to share my screen because I see the complete number.
I'm okay with you showing my complete number.
This is the most.
I do apologize.
This is
On my
insane.
screen, you don't really the complete numbers practically invisible. So I assume that no one can see it.
Okay. Anyway, are we done with the official government test?
Yeah,
It's-
I had some touchpad problems, but
Okay.
but I think that's on my end rather than.
And Alan, it seems to show you calling in from Kansas City, where you have Google Fiber.
No, that's me, Cadeas.
I was going to say that's.
Oh,
probably
that's Cadeas. Oh,
yeah,
got
we,
it. Okay.
We hate Cadeas, by the way, because he has Google Fiber.
Because he has Google Fiber. Yeah.
But does he actually have it? He doesn't have it at his place, does he?
No, I don't have Google Fiber.
So we don't have.
Orange. Look,
He's like the rest of us. He
Cadeas
wishes he had Google Fiber.
Cadeas
So we can stop
is in,
hating on Cadeas.
Yeah.
Hello.
Sorry, Pam.
Hello, Pam. Oh my
Pam,
God.
Sorry,
what-
Pam.
God.
What happened to Pam?
This won't end well. Go ahead, Pam.
Until you turn off your effing camera, I'm not going to go back on camera. Anyway, Cadeas lives in Orange County, California. I could drive to his house by the end of this frickin' show.
She could. She could.
Okay.
I was just trolling
I-
Cadeas.
I didn't say he was in Kansas. I said it seems that he's in Kansas by his phone number.
Okay, so let me while we
That's because his mommy pays his phone bill.
Other way around. actually.
all right, so here's some. Let's look at some comments here. This is really cool. Can I call on my mic like a Google phone? I would think so. I would think you could
Yeah.
write it within Gmail. You could dial it and
Yeah, I
have
actually did it
Sprint.
through
Not
Google
while
Voice.
you're in the Hangout, though.
If you're
In the Hangout.
right.
Yeah, I'm calling
you
from my
have to be
Google
on-
Voice number now.
Yeah, and I did the same thing.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so this is completely insane. I mean,
Now, what it does not seem to do, though, is social info. Hold on. No LinkedIn info. This is on Craig's number. Oh, which now everyone's seeing. I apologize,
Oh,
Craig.
looking at LinkedIn, huh?
They can see my number. It doesn't matter.
Okay,
I
no
like
Google
this, though. This
information,
is
no
better
Facebook
because
information,
I
no
can
Twitter information.
This is better because I can hear you all in the earpiece, and then I can talk into the phone.
That's
this
what I'm
is more
saying. Your
convenient.
phone.
Yeah, it
How
is.
cool this?
you can pee.
Yeah, I'm on here now too. Can you
This
see
is-
me?
I could join twice, and I could when I'm peeing, I could do this.
Yeah, I see you as well.
Okay, so
Okay,
let's
I'm
look
on.
at some
Yeah, I'm in
comments.
from Idaho.
Okay, hang on, guys. Let me do some comments here. Tim says this is really cool. Can I call? Oh, okay, we said that one already, or I did. Brian Schwartz says this is why we need an Uber box. I think the reason I forget what he referred to it as, Michael Ellis, but I think Uber taxi got rid of the German U.
They did. It's annoying as hell.
Shamex2 is trying to promote something. I'm not sure what. Brian Schwartz says how many dollars per year are lost in productivity because no one could figure out how to get the projector to work. This is why people will be interested in this product.
Making
Yeah.
reference to the past.
I mean, I think to be fair to everyone, you all are watching us figure out how to make sausage here. So with the fact that it looks complex is because none of us has used it before, and we're figuring it out on camera, which is
It's not
perhaps
that
not the
it's
best
complex,
way to do a
Michael.
software
Yeah.
demo.
And
It's not-
Dan, maybe
not-
you can ask one of the viewers if they can test during the show if this works in a Hangout on Air, and they can let us know if they're successful. If they can
Sure.
do this in a Hangout
I'm
on
sure
Air.
I'm sure Kevin Bryan will do it. Just
My
have him do
guess
it.
is going to work in Hangout on Air. But the bigger question I have is the usefulness of this thing in this hybrid environment. In other words, there is the reason why people do video conferencing, and there is reason why people do phone conferencing. And
Oh,
it seems to me
I can speak to that.
it
I
seems
mean,
to me
in
that
my-
mixing the two is not exactly a conducive environment. In my
Well,
view.
it's not.
I agree that it's not the best.
Yeah, it's not the best, but a lot of times that's all you can get. You know. If
No,
Right.
but my point is
There are
this.
so many
They
people.
have ability to add phone calling into a Hangout. We already had this ability.
But
We didn't have it for
But we
100
have to initiate the calling. Oleg,
I don't
we have
think
to
we had
initiate the
that in
calling
Hangouts
one call
there,
at a
did we,
time.
Dan?
No, that's one call at a time's a very important thing. Like, for example, if a call were lost, you'd have to stop in the middle and call the person back. It was only
Right.
outbound calling. Now you
Right.
could have up to 100 people call. You could, for example,
Could you
I
do outbound?
It's
Could you do
inbound.
outbound calling in a Hangout on Air?
Yeah,
I didn't think we could.
or maybe you can't.
No.
Can you? I don't know.
No, you cannot do it from a
No,
Hangout
you
on
cannot.
Air.
You
Okay,
cannot.
so you can't.
You
can't.
cannot.
Probably because copyright issues. Because if you're
They have
broadcasting something,
Copyright.
you're recording a phone conversation at that point,
Right.
and there are dual consent states or single consent, blah blah blah. So
No,
Google
that's
doesn't
not
get
the reason,
sued.
Dan. The reason
So we're
for it,
thinking
they
that
told
this
me.
probably will not work in a Hangout on Air then.
Go ahead, Harold. You were saying it probably wouldn't work. Everyone's
Yeah,
on the
the
phone
reason
now.
the reason for it is I talked to the people at Google, and they said as you notice when you enter a Hangout on Air, you have to click this checkbox saying that you are being recorded. Well, that's not available if you're coming in by phone.
Okay. This is
Let me
weird.
ask you this,
that
Michael.
Everyone's on the phone.
Or do you have control over, like, for example, everybody's in there right now. Are you able to mute certain people and bring them in and out? I didn't see any of those settings there.
I do have the ability to mute people.
All of them at once, or just certain ones, or?
It appears that I can only mute one at a time.
So when you mute
Cool.
one person, then the other person is unmuted?
Well, no, I can mute individuals, so I could mute
Okay.
2 of 3 individuals if there were 3
Okay,
in
got it.
and 2 needed to be shut up. Now, I also can. It also can record the call, although I haven't tried that. I'd like to try all of this sometime when we have a bit more controlled setting and not
Public.
not
I think for the
Broadcast.
environment, Michael, you
for permanent history.
when you have customers calling in or somebody calling in with questions, I think it's a plausible thing, and I think it would be useful. But to do a regular hangout like
Entire world.
right now, it just, I mean, people share screens, people talk about, people show videos. I mean, I don't see how you mix the two. I mean, it's like keeping part of the people completely out.
It is, Oleg. It is a problem to mix the mode like this. But the second part of that story is that there are lots and lots and lots of people who do not use Google Plus, and if they want to start to spread this in your organization, whatever it is, you start with the people who use Google Plus. They're in the Hangout, and the other people join by phone, like the Luddites that they are.
Oleg, I'll give you an example. Let's say that Jay Leno heard that we were talking about him, and he wanted to call us.
Yeah, wouldn't we
from his show? We
want to give him his phone number to call in?
We certainly want to give it to him.
Yeah. And we would tell him he's no Carson, but we wish him well.
Oleg?
Yes.
You going to turn off the camera so I can go back on, or not?
Turn off the camera? What do you mean?
Your
the photo
little
app?
capture.
Yeah. For some reason, if you like when a picture was taken, if you clicked it or something, it put a little camera picture, and you got to go over and shut it off. I don't know why it was there. So.
Can I add?
Okay. I'll take the last one, and then I'm going to turn it off because Pam said so. It's done, Pam.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Do I need to sign anything, Pam? Do you want a blood sample or?
Let me add one other thing. Can I add one other thing about this?
Get blood. Go ahead, Michael.
There's a function to lock the conference call.
What does that mean?
I'm sorry, my bandwidth appears to be a problem. To lock the conference happens after everyone expecting to join has called in and joined. You can lock the conference so no additional callers can come in.
Can you also unlock it?
It looks to be maybe yes.
Conference locked.
And
Conference
yes,
unlocked.
I can also unlock it again.
So that's
Yes.
a pretty neat way that, if somebody wanted to do actual call-in shows, as
So the scenario I envisioned there is
I puts in long-time listener or first-time caller. If you wanted to be able to do that sort of thing, you can, put out the number and then, lock it after 1 or 2 people, and then after you've collected those, you unlock it again.
Mhm.
So you can easily filter how many people are coming in at a time.
Right. Maybe we could get Rush Limbaugh to do a show with us to test this out.
That would be great. I'd love to get Rush on there.
Hey, Michael, Tim wants to know the name of the app again.
Oh, sure. It's called Uber Conference. Uber without an umlaut.
It shows the icon at the top of the apps automatically with a little.
It is a featured hot app. They're obviously pushing it right now.
Yeah.
I've seen posts by Dory and some others on the issue as well.
Okay,
so there's lots of chat about it right now.
Real quick, let me do some more comments here. Cybernaut making sausage without an umlaut. Craig, it seems awkward. I have heard some of you that one thing is on the screen, though I'm seeing something different. These tests always look like this. Hey there, what am I trying? Hey there, what am I trying on HOA again? Can I call in and play copywritten material? Michael Daniels asks. No, you may not. I have one strike, and I don't want a second one because 3 and you're done for 6 months. If you don't believe me, ask Michelle Lee, my buddy. This is really cool. Can I call? Yeah, we said that one. So two of the practical applications I can think of here is, let's say that you were having an earnings call. You're a company, you're doing an earnings call, and you wanted to let anybody call in and listen, maybe just listen or maybe ask questions. Even if you're broadcasting it, you may have some folks, some media guys from the Wall Street Journal, etc., who might want analysts. You might want them to be able to participate, and you might want to broadcast the whole thing. That would be a separate technology involved. Another option would be like, I get emails from the White House, and they'll be, like, for example, before they announced that GM was going to be going bankrupt, after they took them over, they went bankrupt, and they announced, the plan and everything. They will do a conference call, and we're not allowed to say who's on the conference call. We could say a top official, and they'll just put the number out, and any number, it could be tens or hundreds or thousands potentially of folks can call in simultaneously. Can you imagine if the White House had to personally call each person in a hangout? That's just not practical. This way, everyone, 100 people can simultaneously call in, and they can all participate or just listen, but they're in there, and you can simply publish the number, and that's what the White House does.
Yep.
We get an email and says you can call this number, and you don't have to hit a pin. You can just say, I want the White House call, but that whatever technology they're using, and then you can sit there and listen, and they don't have to do anything. They just publish the number, and they set it up. They log in, and then whoever calls in, calls in. So it's very interesting, and I could totally see this as it would be kind of crazy, but it'd be interesting to try to see this as some sort of talk show format, because I don't think you have the control you would need for that. But I don't think it's designed for that. But then, of course, Hangouts weren't designed for shows, and look how many people have adopted it for that purpose.
And it might not be finished too, obviously.
Oh yeah, these were just announced today, right? Or yesterday.
They're just announced today, and this is really phenomenal stuff, I think.
Hey, Michael,
I've been doing this. I'm sorry.
Could I ask?
Oh, just one quick question. Brian Schwartz wants you to kind of explain why he's just seeing the phone number on the black screen with the black screen in the middle.
What this is, okay.
I'm not sure why, Brian. I'm not sure why you're seeing that.
Because here's what pops up. Like I'm showing the whole screen here. You see, like here's Mike. Michael's on. Who's the 5'8"? Is that Craig? Are you on the phone, Craig?
No, there's nobody on the phone. That's the Uber conference. That's the Uber app calling out to the main conference line.
Okay, so
we could still have people calling in.
What happens is, because we're in a hangout, and you had two people. So like, let's say, like here, I'm gonna blue screen Cadeas, right? So his picture's up there. Let's say Cadeas called in. I think he did earlier. If he's talking, then the noise is coming from the square like this with the phone number on it, right?
Right.
So this would pop up because the hangout highlights where the audio is coming from. So it would show this, even though you can see him here. If he were talking on this phone number here, this is what would pop up. And when that's blue screen, then you would see this and the little thing that would, get wider, even though his video is here. So it's definitely a weird merger here, the way we're doing it. And again, this is, as I said, we're not even beta testing this. This is brand new. And a lot of this is speculative and conjecture and stuff. And we're, but Michael's been playing with it. I briefly turned it on, and I couldn't make it work, but I had a very limited amount of time because I'm kind of a zombie on print week anyway.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hey, let me add one other thing to that, Dan. The other point that I think that we probably misspoke on a couple of specific details of this. There are links in the show notes, which I believe are public and everyone can see if they choose to, that point to articles that describe this in detail, and I just don't want anyone to take what we said as exact gospel. There's a couple mistakes we made, so rather than spend the time fixing them, just go to the show notes and click the link, and you'll see the details.
Yeah, these are early, as they say, from 10,000 feet in the air observations.
Yeah.
We'll know a lot more in a week and 2 weeks. etc.
And I'll be using this. I'm making a presentation tomorrow in Connecticut on using Google Hangout tools for interaction with undergraduates and alumni from universities. I'll be talking about this topic tomorrow. Late-breaking changes to my PowerPoint. Excuse me, my Google Slides.
Yeah. No excuses
Okay.
for that.
So, Alan, we've got Oleg in here, and he is there. With, I know that your son is going to be very upset. Ben is going to be upset because I see with the feature there, they've got your beautiful daughter showing there, but your Ben is totally fogged out there.
It's not Ben. It's not Rita. It's Ben. You see Ben right now. It's not my daughter. It's him.
Who's on the right there in the red?
That's Pam.
Oh.
No, and my picture. Let me pull myself up so maybe I don't know what you're talking about.
Those are your two kids, correct? That's
Yeah.
your daughter in
My kids
green,
are
and
smaller.
Ben is in the red, right?
Ben is in Rita is in red. Ben is in green.
Oh wow.
Oh.
Okay, so Ben needs a haircut in that picture. Please don't let Ben know I questioned his gender. That would be a whole thing you'd have to take
That'll
into
scar
therapy.
him for life.
Yeah, that would be a big deal. So, just kidding. We need
Ben.
one of those things so when people cuss that you can
A cough button.
Yeah, delete the last minute. So just ignore everything I just said, as
No
Alan
problem.
does for hours.
And don't ever let him get a YouTube account.
He has a successful show. He's awesome. So okay, so here, Alan, can I add Oleg's topic? Is this a time we could do that real quick?
Yeah, sure, whatever.
Okay, so here's the deal. What started this was Oleg, of course, does not fake the thick accent he has. He was born in Russia and has a unique perspective.
Gonna be talk accurately. It's Ukraine. It's Kiev.
Huh?
I was born in Kiev, which is Ukraine. It's not Russia.
Okay, so that's what I wanted to ask you. Okay, so forgive me. So here's the thing. A lot of folks are seeing the Ukrainian protesters. All we know is that there's two issues. First is we know that they're protesting. We know that the president of Ukraine was on the heels, or there was anticipation that he was going to sign some sort of agreement with the EU, and then at the last minute, or at some point, he switched and ended up signing a deal with Russia, and then that's kind of what the protesters are about. So I'm kind of curious: are these like rich guys or working class guys or in the middle? What's the deal going on there? And if you could kind of condense it so we understand what really is going on there, because the media never discusses the whys. And the second thing is, what do you think about the Olympic stuff? All these crazy stories, like the crazy hotel stories, don't flush your toilet paper down the toilet, use the toilet paper and put it in this tin here, and then, I mean, just crazy stuff. There's no, curtain rods on the ground. All the journalists and stuff. And apparently, a lot of foreigners are afraid to go there. And it's just any of your thoughts on this whole spectacle we're seeing played out, and then you guys ask Oleg's whatever questions you have real quick, since we have an expert in the Ukraine here with us tonight. Go ahead.
I don't know
Oleg.
about being an expert. I don't remember the language anymore, so I wouldn't qualify as an expert. But basically, I talked to my relatives in Kiev itself, and to make a long story short, is people were really pissed that they didn't get the Olympics there. They got it at Sochi, so they were protesting. That was the main reason. No, I'm just kidding. What it is that, yeah, they were supposed to sign an agreement with the European Union, and you have to understand that Ukraine is a deeply divided country. In other words, people who lived in the western and also actually part of eastern Ukraine, but mostly western, they're extremely nationalistic, and they cannot stand, could never stand, still cannot stand foreigners such as Russians. Okay, so if you go way back, for example, to the point of World War II, as soon as the Germans walked into Ukraine, these people immediately turned and were actually worse in terms of barbarism than the Germans were, the Nazis were. And it's because of their vehement and just unending hatred for somebody else being in their country or them being forced being part of another country. So very, very nationalistic. Then you have the other part of Ukraine, which includes Kiev, actually, which, you know, the capital and the old city. People there lived for many years under the Soviet rule, and they're a little bit more, I don't know if you want to call it progressive, if you want to call it liberal, whatever you want to call it, but they're a little bit more in step with the Russians. When I lived there, I remember my parents held me back one extra year in my old school after we were supposed to move to a new neighborhood, just so I can go to quote-unquote Russian school. Because the schools there at the time were divided into schools taught in Ukrainian and then schools taught in Russian. And a lot of people in where I lived in Kiev wanted to be going to Russian-speaking school, even though you would have to still take Ukrainian language, but you would learn all the subjects and everything in Russian. So there is this deep divide within the country itself that was there before, and then after the Soviet Union collapse became even more so, where there's this huge division. So the story in this particular case was that the people who are on the nationalistic side, you know, very much into Ukraine is us and nobody else, they wanted to go and become part away from Russia, basically. It's not so much that they desire to be part of the European Union, they wanted to be away from the influences of Russia, you know, going back deep-seated. The other half of the country wants to be same neighbors of Russians and dealing with Russia and getting Russian gas and everything else, just like before. So what happened was when the Yanukovych guy, which is the current premier, who is pro-Russian, by the way, he is a guy who is a little bit more into the Russian end of things. He wanted to sign, when he was talking about signing the deal with Europeans, there is a little guy running around in the world who pretty much has more influence than our president, by the name of Putin, who said, you know what, you signed the deal with them, we're going to cut some things off of you, potentially gas. I mean, there's a lot of threats made, and in a subtle way, he basically put an end to it by saying, if you're going to do this deal with EU, then you're going to be having serious problems with Russia, and this Yanukovych guy doesn't want to have any serious problems with Russia, so he backed off the deal. As soon as he backed off the deal, this was a sign to these Westerners, I mean Western Ukrainians, that the guy is doing his Russian gig, and he's back in bed with Putin, and that's not what they want. They want to get away from Putin, they don't want to be in bed with Putin, and that's where the clash started. Now, in terms of the clash itself, if you remember the WTO riots in Seattle a few years back, which is total BS, also if you add to it the, what the hell was it called in New York? Occupy Wall Street, remember that movement, all of that stuff, where a bunch of people that were doing it basically were doing it because they could, not because they were any kind of activists or anything. It's the same thing I was told is happening in Kiev. It's basically people from out of town who came in, who can do mischief because right now politically it's something that's doable, and they essentially trashed part of the city with fires and, you know, burning tires and all of that by the it's basically an area, kind of like a plaza close to the main stadium. You got to remember, in Ukraine, most of the Soviet Union actually, everybody's main sport is soccer. I mean, they don't play any other sports because soccer leads everything by a mile. And so this was the main stadium where all the soccer games take place, and so they decided to do it over there. And the stadium is named after a guy who was a famous Russian, I mean, basically Kiev, their team used to be called Kiev Dynamo, which was, they actually took European award one time for the best team in Europe, not just in Russia. And it was just a, you know, killer team. And the guy who was the part of that actually made that team happen, who was their coach, they named the stadium after him, and they had this huge mural that was painted, you know, right outside of stadium. These people trashed all of this. They burned it, they chiseled at it, just completely destroyed basically part of that particular part of town. But that's the only part of town that's impacted, because the main part of Kiev is called Kreshchatyk, which is this huge street, which is where all the parades happen, things like that. They're not touching that. That's my understanding. It's just this one part by the stadium, but American press was all on nothing but that. Like this is, it looks like the whole city is burning. And people are trying to work, people are trying to do this stuff. Their police right now are talking about checking people's papers and kicking out anybody who is not from Kiev, because a lot of these troublemakers that are doing this in the city actually are out-of-towners who are there to, same thing that happened here in Seattle. A bunch of people came from Vancouver, a bunch of people came from wherever, throwing rocks at Starbucks. It's the same kind of crowds, basically losers and lowlifes trying to still stir trouble. And that's what's going on over there. So it's, yes, there's people protesting, everything else, but in terms of this major riot type situation, it's just kind of like one part of town. That's what they explained to me. So that's what I'm explaining to you.
Okay, so let me put some numbers in perspective here real quick. I'm just going to show folks, I'm looking here, the population of Russia is 145 million. And the gross domestic product is 2 trillion. The population of the Ukraine, to compare, is 45 million. So 1/3 the population of Russia. But their GDP is only 176 billion.
Right, it's a poor country,
so
but
it's a poor country, right?
One in the region.
Their population, if you want to compare it, so it's about 1/3 the size of Russian population, about half the size, a little less than half, or a little more than half the size of Germany in population, and slightly bigger than Poland. So it's no joke. I mean, this is a lot of people we're talking about here. And so it sounds to me like when you describe they don't like foreigners, do you mean based on a history of having been conquered by the Soviets, they don't like foreigners? So like if a tourist went there, they'd be okay. They're just, spending money and eating at restaurants, that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah, they just don't like the Russians mostly. And the Russians could try to put them under their wing, so to speak. They want to be independent, completely independent. They want to do everything on their own. They are a nuclear power, so, they're not some little guys running around.
When you say nuclear power, they're a serious nuclear power, or there are some legacy weapons remaining that nobody knows how to operate and are probably breaking down and are probably more a threat to them than any potential adversary?
No, I don't think it's that. No, I think it's the first, not the latter. No, I think they're a nuclear power to the point where if they needed to use it, they would use it if they needed to. No, I don't think they're inept. It's not like Soviet Union had nuclear weapons and only Russians were capable of doing anything. It's not like that at all. They have plenty of their own brains and their own scientists, and they know, if they need to do trouble, they can do trouble. Let's put it this way.
Okay, quick question, and then whoever else wants to ask him about this. The Olympics are going on as we speak. I think it's 7:30, 8 o'clock tonight Eastern time. NBC was airing the opening ceremonies, which were earlier today, with President Putin. And apparently, some of the news sites are focusing on what went wrong. And I saw stories of, there are no foreigners here; it's all Russians. Everyone's scared to come because of the stories about terrorism and all this stuff. Tell us about, is it Sochi or Sochi? I guess Sochi. So tell us about that. Tell us any thoughts you have about the Olympics being there. Do you think it's going to go well as far as like not having crazy terrorism things or weird stuff? Is it going to be a modern Olympics or what's going to happen? And then the rest of you guys weigh in.
Yeah, I can just tell you my speculations on it and some things that I know from living there. Basically, I think the Olympics are going to go pretty well over there in terms of the actual events taking place and everything being prepared, all of that. I don't think there's going to be major problems. In terms of terrorism, there may be something that's going to happen outside of Sochi. I don't think Putin is going to allow anything to happen inside Sochi. I just don't believe that's going to be the case. In terms of the actual coverage and everything.
I just want to interject there for a moment, Oleg, and point out that if something was going to happen, we would have seen it at the opening ceremonies probably. I mean,
not necessarily, Alan. Not necessarily. I mean, you got to remember that I'm sure that they are putting even more effort in security during those than during the regular stuff. So, yeah, I can see your point, but not necessarily. I mean, we'll see till the very end. Maybe nothing will happen. They threatened they're going to do something, so we shall see.
Yeah, it's a valid point, but I think any terrorist that wants to get the attention, they're going to pick the thing that gets attention, and that's the opening ceremony.
Well, right now, anything will get attention. Anything happening in Sochi, considering how much press there is on the subject, everything will be a deal. But that's
also,
not
as
the
much
deal. I
as
don't know.
you're not a Putin fan by any definition.
I'm not a Putin fan, but I'm saying
there's no denying that he knows security, right? He's a former head of the KGB.
I
If
know, but
nothing
that
else,
doesn't
he can
mean that
hopefully
he
do
can-
security for this.
He can do security, and I'm sure they're doing security. It has nothing to do with him being former KGB. It's just basically that they can do security. I'm sure they do security, and they're going to try to do whatever they can because it is their face to the world. Now, at the same time, I'm definitely disappointed a little bit and miffed at the Americans, even though that's the side I'm rooting for, because there's been a tremendous amount of completely inept, in my view, coverage and everything concentration on the whole gay thing. It's just ridiculous. There's all these things that are being done. Google puts out the logo and this and that, and everybody online about gay this and gay. It's ridiculous. Yesterday on NBC, if anybody watched, what's his name? Costas. Isn't that the guy who's doing the coverage on NBC?
The biggest story was about his eye being red.
No. Yesterday there was a deal
Did we just
with
lose?
him. He was doing an interview with this gentleman, Posner is the guy's name, and a gentleman which was American. And so if you watch that, what this David Posner said about the whole gay thing with Russia was exactly 100% right on, that unfortunately Americans just don't get. And the point is that Russians, like you said, 85% of them, it might be even bigger, they're not into the whole gay issue. They're not. It's not that they're homophobic, like everybody's calling it. They're not homophobic. They're not afraid of gays. They couldn't care less about gays. What they don't want to see is the gay agenda being pushed in their face, which is exactly what Putin was trying to say, saying, look, everybody's welcome to come. Don't push this stuff on our people, especially our kids. That's all he said. He didn't say don't come. He didn't say, well, put you in gulag or anything. He just said, do not make any advocacy deals here for this deal. And I personally agree with the guy from a standpoint that it's Olympics, it's about sports, it shouldn't be about politics, it shouldn't be about lifestyle issues or sexual preferences or any of that kind of stuff. It's about sports. And everybody else on this side is trying to make it about gays as opposed to making it about sports. And that's where there's a conflict. That nobody will ever, no matter how many flags you put in on Google showing that you're pro the whole gay movement, it's not going to phase a single Russian. They're not going to make any points. They don't care about this stuff. They don't want to see it, and they don't care about it. What they want to see is they want to see the games.
Well,
So basically,
the old
right now,
Soviet, the
there's-
whole region has always been very conservative socially, like that. They've always adopted
It
a
is.
conservative
It is.
posture, even though they were.
And basically,
It's weird because,
America is trying to push the point because in America it's a popular issue right now with marriages and everything else. Russians don't want to see it, and nobody's going to change anybody's minds here. So I think that's a mistake here of how everything is being presented. Russians come out with a story about American or foreign journalists that took the showers. They have evidence, surveillance evidence, that they took showers and turned them on with hot water and pointed them at walls and then left for the day and then came back complaining that there was no cold, hot water. They couldn't take a shower. The guy says they have surveillance video. The foreigners here in the States all of a sudden immediately blow up. What? You have surveillance videos of people in hotels?
I think
and
this
so,
is
that becomes its own little beast right there.
Oleg,
guy
this is,
disappears somewhere.
it's not news when the plane safely lands. It's news when the plane crashes.
Yeah, so basically,
and so
like I
for
said,
all the people who had a
both-
great experience, nobody's covering their tweets, but when the person shows the two glasses of rusty water because the water had obviously just been turned on, and in any case, if you turn the water off for a few hours or a few days, you turn it back on, there's going to be rust in the water. That's the tweet that, heard around the world, right? It's not all the people who had no problem. So
Well, look,
that's
first
just
of all,
news. They're not picking on
lot-
Russia or Sochi for that issue. That's just the nature of the news beast.
I'm saying that
What,
if you
total
look at-
ignorance?
if you look at-
I'm a tabloid owner, so I know all about this.
if you look at what Putin basically is faced with and stuff, he's not that dumb. So they built a tremendous amount of new stuff. Most of the new stuff, I'm sure, is working fine. I don't think they're that incompetent. And it's basically the West trying to push the deal because of this whole situation with gays. That's the main push. That's all I'm seeing into it. And that this doesn't work and that, and basically they're trying to badmouth everything they can and possibly do, instead of actually concentrating on covering, for example, the opening games. some people that I talked to today that actually saw the opening games on, like on Russian channel and stuff, said they were beautifully done. Very nice deal, beautifully done, everything else. There was a coverage of some sort of team that had like 3 members, and then the whole Russian team comes out, which, a ton of people, and there was practically no word said about it. They were continuing to talk about this team from some country, from Africa probably, with 3 members. It's a blatant deal where the Western media is trying to badmouth the Russians as much as they can. The Russians are trying to push back, saying, so it winds up being, I don't want to say it in public, but it winds up being, what it is, okay?
Okay, Oleg, as much as I generally actually agree with you on this, and mark that for the record book again, but a number of things that I don't, so don't, color it in too heavily.
Lightning is gonna strike.
I think you're ascribing way too much intelligence to NBC, and Bob Costas in particular. Bob Costas probably could not report on tying a shoelace without bringing in 5 consultants and a whiteboard to accurately diagram it, and he'd still mess it up. This is a man who has covered the Olympic opening ceremony for I don't even remember how many years, and I probably would be willing to bet that he does not know how many rings there are on the Olympic flag.
Yeah.
He is an idiot. He is incompetent. He is ignorant. And he demonstrates that every year at the opening ceremony. He embarrasses the U.S. every single year. And the only reason why he probably doesn't actually embarrass the U.S. is because nobody else is stupid enough to watch our coverage.
Okay.
They all watch real coverage.
And as far as, you say real coverage, they don't all watch real coverage. They actually watch the BS. That's why they do the BS. And I can tell you, as a professional journalist, that what a good example about is this is a weird example, but remember when George H.W. Bush, the first President Bush, said he didn't like broccoli, right? There's so many things the national media should have been spending time covering. Instead, Bush didn't like broccoli. And what happened was he made the off comment, and then probably the broccoli lobby, the Growers Association or what have you, put out a press release or whatever, and everyone had fun with it. And, news is by definition new, okay? You couldn't really cover too much about the games until the game started. So they do the pre-stories, and then there's nothing to do. It's boring, and you're afraid you're going to lose ratings because nobody cares about it until the games start. And then this happens, and then all the advocacy groups on both sides wade in, and then there's drama and controversy you can cover and get ratings. That's what this is about. That's how this happens.
Alan. Even then, NBC has shown its amazing ignorance at just about anything. I mean, I understand last night they did an exclusive segment from Sochi, about the network insecurity there. And the security expert that they got on this morning basically said he had no freaking clue what the hell they were reporting on because they got it completely wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there were stories that as soon as you walked in there, immediately your phone's hijacked or hacked into. And then, but I don't know what that's based on. It's probably these things. It's just like blogging. You can see it in real time. It's the same thing. There was a story that I corrected actually. I saw a good guy, Brian Brushwood. I saw a tweet from him saying, "Is this accurate?" That this guy said that he accused Verizon of.
We'll be getting into that later, I think.
Oh, is that an issue?
I think if it isn't, it should be, because that really needs to be seriously smacked down.
Because I actually contacted he said, anyway, I actually contacted the PR rep and got a reply saying I got an off the record and on the record. Basically, it was a BS charge. But that stuff happens. But see, what you see is you saw how many links, hundreds of links about a story, any given story. And then the correction, how many links does it get?
We'll talk about that one again later. Okay. But that, again, is a great example of somebody who was ignorant, an idiot, and did not know what they were talking about, spewing things off at their mouth. And it wasn't until somebody who actually has a tiny, tiny fraction of a clue that steps in and says, hey, you're talking BS, that anybody even begins to think, oh, wait a minute. Does this person know what they're talking about? And when we're talking about the Olympics and NBC, shockingly, for some mysterious reason, remains incompetent, despite having bought their way into this contract for decades now.
Did you just describe me as someone who has a tiny, tiny bit of a clue?
No, but if you want to take that as a compliment, you can.
That's high praise from Alan Furstenberg for Dan McDermott.
Swear it, right?
I know, Craig, you've been to Moscow a bunch of times. You want to weigh in on this? Any other questions or observations about the Ukraine riots or the Olympic coverage or the Olympics in general, or anything you want to say, Craig? Because you've been to Moscow.
It's a great place to go. Now, I haven't been to the Ukraine. I want to go. But Moscow is a great place to visit in late July, early August. Very nice. If you like to wear jackets and so forth, it starts cooling off, and a beautiful place to be. Stays daylight up until like 10 p.m. Great place to spend July even, the whole month of July. Highly recommend it.
Yeah, that makes one of us.
Yep. If you like to cool off, if you're from an area like Washington, D.C., where it gets real humid in July, the second half of July in particular, early August, and you want to escape all that, go to Moscow. It's a great place to hang out.
Yeah, much better, much nicer. Nicer people, nicer environment, a lot cheaper.
I like the people that I met there, and the people that I know there. I like them. They always treated me nice, and they roll out the red carpet when I come and visit, so I enjoy it. I highly recommend it.
Okay.
I don't spend money while I'm there because they take good care of me while I'm there, so it's just the flight is really my cost. And then I return the favor when they come and visit me, so it works out that way.
Of course, Moscow has nothing to do with Sochi, but yeah.
Yeah, I haven't been to Sochi. I would like to go sometime, but I would go during their season, during their warm weather.
Yeah, Sochi is actually a resort town. That's where people go on vacations.
During the warm weather, right? Don't they go there in the summertime?
It's pretty warm most of the year. In the winter, obviously, they do have snow and all that too, but for the most part, it's definitely going to be a resort town where you go on vacations, that kind of deal. It's kind of similar to, in some ways, to Yalta, which is where Roosevelt met with Churchill and Stalin back in World War II. So it's a similar kind of town.
So would it be a good place to go in like July, for example?
Absolutely. Yeah, if you want to have a nice vacation in a warm spot, it's pretty nice. Yeah, it's very nice. Yep.
So I might go there sometime when I take a trip over that way. It's been suggested to me a couple times, but I've just never made it down there.
Yeah, no, it's they got some places by the Black Sea. I mean, if you go to, you can go to Odessa, which is a decent place to go on vacation. I mean, from that standpoint, and it has a bunch of history. And if you look at, remember Fiddler on the Roof? It was written by the guy from Odessa.
Can you elaborate when you say it's a nice place to go? What kind of stuff would you do there? What does it cost to go there? Is it expensive or cheap or in between, or what's the deal?
You got to remember, these cities like Odessa is located on Black Sea, so you're going basically, if you go over there on vacation, you end up being by vast amount of beach space located on a pretty calm sea. Black Sea is pretty calm sea, so it's. I remember we went to this town called Skadovsk, which is about, I don't know, maybe an hour drive from Odessa, so it's a little small town. But, nice white sandy beaches. You can see forever, basically, how far this beach goes. And then you walk into the water, because I was a kid when we went on vacation there. And I was, last time we were there, I was, 11 or something. And I could actually walk easily for probably 100, 150 yards before it would actually be deep enough for me to be over my head. So they have, kind of pristine waters there. It's not very deep. It's really good for kids. All sand. There's no rocks at all. And so from a vacation standpoint, on Black Sea, it's beautiful. I mean, in terms of taking vacation, it's a really nice place to be. I don't know how much it would cost. I would personally much rather go to Hawaii or to Mexico, go to Russia anywhere. But if you wanted to have a nice vacation on a sea, somewhere on the sea, you could go to on a Black Sea. It's very nice. Very nice.
Okay, we got a comment from John Jensen. Oleg actually made me see the other side of all this, the conditions in Sochi and the gay agenda, as well as some interesting history. So thanks, Oleg, from John Jensen, and thanks. Yeah,
okay,
so,
you know
go
what?
ahead,
I'm sorry.
Alan.
I've got to. You know, I was going to not say anything, but I have to. My issue with the gay agenda is there is no agenda. There is no coordination. A lot of it is reaction to Russia passing a really stupid law based on some really stupid and incorrect assumptions.
Well, in your opinion, okay? That's your opinion, Alan. Whether it's stupid or
it's
not,
as much as
it's
your
the
opinion
feeling
was before
of
as
the
well.
vast majority of the country, okay? So you can call it stupid, but that's how most people feel on the subject over there, and that's what they passed.
But here's the thing. As you point out, your comment earlier that it's people tend not to care, people tend not to say anything, and yet there was this law that got passed based on no justifiable information and based entirely on fear.
No, it's not on fear. It's based on the fact that people want to do parades, people want to put up these new flags and everything else, and they don't want to see that. They do not want to see that.
And these people are Russians who wanted to do this.
Yes.
Okay. So, okay.
That's all. It's as simple as that. Like I said, for Americans, it's tough to understand because we're in an era where marriages are allowed and this and that, and everybody's evolving and so on and so forth. Russians don't want to evolve. They are what they are. They don't want to even deal with this. They have a lot bigger problems to worry about than, you know, rainbow flags.
Well,
and
here's the thing, Oleg. There are apparently people in Russia who would also rather not have to deal with these things, where these things are being defined as brutally being beaten up and killed.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people that are being brutally beat up and killed, and which has nothing to do with gays. I mean, that's a whole separate issue. It's not like there are people running around trying to find gays and kill them. It's not like that at all.
It sure sounds like there is, Oleg.
It's really, to me, it's a civil rights issue. People tend to raise flags and have parades when they're being denied rights, when there's a reason why they would make that effort. No, like in America,
it's hard to explain to you guys. It's not the case. Okay?
You don't see upper middle class white males having parades demanding rights in America because they basically have all the rights, right? So you see people who have their rights not being met, who tend to gather to try to get attention for their cause. Now, I think that's the deal. I think it's, and I'd go to Bill O'Reilly, of Fox News, the #1 guy on Fox News.
Yeah.
And he said it's basically a rights issue, and it's very difficult when you're denying someone rights. When in the U.S. Constitution, of course, we're talking about the Ukraine, which obviously has a completely different system of government, but in the U.S. Constitution, it says you're guaranteed equal rights under the law. Yeah. And there's a guarantee of freedom of speech, freedom of religion, or from religion, whatever your flavor is. Yeah. And that if you try to find any kind of non-religious reason to deny people basic rights based on gender preference, then it would be you'd be hard pressed. And so that's their issue, and that's the reason that they would do a parade. I mean, those crazy parades with the guys, the bikers in leather and all that stuff. Nobody wants.
When was this law passed?
That's not what this is about.
Yeah, when was this law passed?
Alan brought the law up. I'm not an expert on that.
No. Tell me when the law with free speech and all that was passed.
In the U.S. or in over there?
In U.S., yeah.
It was the very first amendment to the United States Constitution.
1776.
Oleg is trying to say that
how many years after the slavery
they are.
He has a point that a bunch of slave owners passed that law.
Well, my point is, for how many years after the law was on the books, U.S. still had slavery?
80?
For many, many years. Okay, we don't have to count it. I'm just saying, the bottom line being, America is idealistic to a degree, but also not exactly pure because of how they handle the situation with...
Absolutely, we're not pure. We slaughtered the Indians and took the survivors and put them in concentration camps. We enslaved Africans. I mean, we're not the city on the shining hill
But that's what I'm trying to tell you.
You know,
just because there are laws here that do this and that, that's not the case. Look how many people are opposed violently, not violently, but physically and in your face to Obamacare. So what? You think anything is changing? Nothing is changing. He's not changing the laws. In fact, some of the new things they have to do, he just simply passes executive orders, and he goes around the law like this. And he's done it numerous times.
I published a list of the executive orders of every president, including George Washington, and since, except one who died shortly after taking office, has done executive orders.
Yeah, but Dan,
in fact, it was an executive order. It was an executive order that freed the slaves. The Emancipation Proclamation was,
and
not
it was
voted
unconstitutional.
on.
My point, exactly, and that was unconstitutional.
Well, he also locked up the Maryland legislature because they were about to vote to secede. You know, you
Can
do
we
what you
move
got
to the
do.
next topic?
Thanks, Pam.
No?
All right, are we good on that? We all agree?
Yeah. We all agree.
Go Putin. Okay. I shall, for the next show, be naked from the waist up on a horse, battling somebody in celebration of Putin's glorious opening ceremonies tonight. Okay, so
I will watch.
I will tell you one last thing.
I will only watch if you're naked from the waist down.
I will tell you one last thing, Dan. One last thing I will tell you.
Yes, sir.
Do not underestimate this guy, okay? You may not be a fan, but he should not be underestimated.
I agree. He's a formidable guy.
He's not Gorbachev. He's not Yeltsin. He's something else.
He's no dummy. He's politically smart, and he has managed to carve a dictatorship out of a democracy, on paper at least.
Right.
And
what's more
he's
important,
not to be underestimated, for
Russia
sure.
back from the floor, broken into pieces, into a nation again, single-handedly. So, like I said, do not underestimate this guy.
Didn't his predecessor, the drunk tennis player guy, who's president? What's his name?
His predecessor, who was his puppet? That one?
Exactly.
No, not Medvedev. How do you pronounce it?
Medvedev. Yeah, Medvedev.
It took me a year to get your last name right, but I got it down. But what was the name of the original president after?
Medvedev is his name.
No, after Gorbachev.
Yeltsin. Boris Yeltsin.
Okay. He was a character.
He was drunk.
He had fun.
Yeah, he did.
He rolled with a 12-pack instead of an iron, and then he was replaced by somebody who ruled an iron fist. Okay, so next up, now that we've solved the problems in the former Soviet Union, population about 290 million, to put that in perspective. So Ukraine's no joke. Like I said, 45 million, 145 in Russia, and almost 300 million in, maybe I got that number wrong. I'll check.
That's okay. Next topic, what Pam said.
Next topic is, I have no idea, HDR Scape.
You posted this, Dan.
I didn't, did I?
Yes.
Oh, I just shared it. I can't talk
I'm
about it,
sure
though. You're the photo
reading it.
guy. That was a
We need
courtesy.
Greg here.
That was a courtesy share. Either Vic or Chi or somebody shared it, and I was like, bam, click share. All you.
But you didn't read it.
I'll be honest. I was about ready to take my nap before the show.
You
get my beauty sleep.
Anyway, so let's actually talk about this topic.
Alan, please. I know you've been binding. Go ahead and steal my thunder and tell us about this topic.
Because we haven't actually talked about photos for almost a month now. It seems like.
Oh my God.
And it was so good the last time. Let's please do it again.
I know, but they finally made an update to the photo editor.
You can
introducing that feature that absolutely everybody has been asking for, HDRscape. Wait, nobody's been asking for this.
Can you?
In fact,
I never knew what it was.
In the unlikely event that someone
HDRscape
doesn't understand what that is, could you possibly explain?
Dan, I actually do get to this in a timely fashion. HDRscape is a feature that's actually currently on the mobile version. And it was something that they rolled out at the Vic Condotra Breakfast with Photography a few months back that we were all excited about until we realized they actually never said anything. It introduces some HDR-like aspects to their photo processing. And I haven't played with it on mobile. I haven't played with this new version because it hasn't rolled out to me yet. but it sounds like it tries to emulate some of the high dynamic range abilities that you get with the real HDR processing. What HDR is, for those of you who don't know, if you haven't actually watched our show before, because we've only pounded it to death a few times, the way cameras work is different than the way a human eye works. So a human eye can look at something that has fairly high contrast and be able to very well distinguish what the two things with high contrast are. So you can look at something that's deep in shadow and see it fairly well, and something that's deep in light right next to it and see it fairly well also. Cameras don't work that way traditionally. So what they've one of the algorithms that's come up in the past few dozen years is something that is able to take multiple photographs of a scene, typically somewhere between 3 and 5 either 3 or 5 photographs, where some of them are overexposed, so you see the camera can pick up the dark areas much better, some of which are underexposed, so it picks up the light areas much better, and it works to combine these two images so that the picture that's there better represents both the dark and the light. It's more like how your eye will see it. It's not perfect. It's got a number of problems, and it also tends to create some oversaturation issues that make it look fairly cool sometimes, but artificial. It has a particular style to it, and it's that style that a lot of people think of when they think of HDR. And that style may be some of what this picks up as well, although it's also trying to do the underexposed, overexposed processing as well.
Real quick, Alan, let me pause just for a second. I'm going to show folks, I did a post on this a while back, and I'm going to show them an HDR before and after. I did 2 shots. I did one with my Canon Vixia HFS 100 camera. That's on the left. And you see the cloud, it's kind of, it's not a particularly attractive picture. Then I did using the Pro HDR camera app from iLabs, and it took 3 shots, one bright, medium, and then one dark, or over, under, and regular exposure, and then combines them, and it kind of figures out, it darkens the bright spots a bit, and brightens the dark spots, etc. And so you end up, on the right here, you end up with a much more beautiful shot that more accurately portrays what the eye saw. And actually, in fact, as Alan also said, this is actually a bit rosier a picture than really was there. What I actually saw was sort of in between. But go ahead, Alan. I just wanted to give our viewers...
Deb, if you want to show for a second my deal, you can see this is what Alan was talking about having a surreal type look that looks really cool, but that's what HDR, this was a famous Kirkland cow done in HDR by me.
Leave it up for a sec, because the screen share takes a moment sometimes to kick in.
Can you see it?
I can't see it yet. Can you guys see it?
No, I'm not seeing Oleg at the moment. We'll keep it up, Oleg, so we'll get back to you when it does show up.
Okay.
No, but I mean, you basically have covered it, Dan. I think the question comes in for some of these pseudo HDRs that aren't really that are trying to create an HDR-like effect based on just a single image. There are some interesting algorithms that are trying to do that, and what Vic Gundotra indicated is that that's what some of this processing is trying to do. With some good results. So it'll be interesting to see how well it does it automatically, and how many people actually use this and care. Oh, wait, did I say care? Who's going to care about photos? No, seriously. I mean, it's nice to see, but it would be nicer to see them actually address some of the things that people asked for, as opposed to this. I don't know. Anyway, one of the other features that came in, well, we're still waiting for Oleg's screenshot, apparently.
Why is it taking so long, you think?
I don't know. Are you using a Chromebox with dedicated camera? And,
No.
wait, that was an earlier subject that we beat to death. The other feature that comes in with this is the ability to zoom in on a picture. So that, and by zoom in on a picture, we're not talking about a final result. We're talking about if you've got a fairly large picture and a fairly small screen, it will, it will shrink it down so you can look at it. But if you want to be able to look at fine details after doing some photo editing, it's really useful to zoom in on the picture so you can, look at a pixel by pixel comparison sometimes, or just to get a better sense of how it's cleaning up, look at the smaller part that you want to focus in on. And Zoom now gives that. The totally bizarre part to me is that although you're able to zoom in on something now, you can't do pixel by pixel editing with this photo editor. So I don't know why anyone would care.
I think, Alan, it's mostly meant to be used for people who want to do some small tweaks. You want to do a little crop, you want to make the thing a little bit brighter, you want to add a little frame to it. I think it's meant to be more of a post-processing, quick and simple deal, as opposed to serious editing.
No, that's a good point. I guess you could zoom in and do crops a little bit easier in some ways, but for the pixel by pixel lightning, whatever. I don't know how many people are going to end up doing that. And what you've tended to see people use extreme zooms and pixel by pixel editing for is for doing, Photoshop-like cutouts and Photoshop-like pixel tweaking. And this photo editor just doesn't give you those kinds of tweaks. And until it does, it's, I don't know. Anyway.
By the way, did you guys cover today the most important topic of the day, which is 50th anniversary of Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show?
No, we have that on for later.
I'm embarrassed that we haven't hit that yet.
That's come on, today this is the topic.
I thought we were all going to wear wigs tonight.
Nah. I just wanted to bring it in case you guys didn't talk about it, because it's a big deal.
I have a sock monkey hat.
Keep it moving, Dan.
Okay, so next up,
the Beatles.
Adobe. Oh yeah, I have another topic. Adobe blogger John Nack heads to the Google Plus photo team. Surprisingly, I did not put this topic in and don't know anything about it.
I did, even though I have no clue who John Nack is. But everybody who does seem to know who he is are big photo and graphics type people who I trust and respect. So presumably this guy was important in that field. And the fact that Google has got him now, after he's been doing this for Adobe for quite some time. This is not, he's been well established and is well respected over on the Adobe side of the world, and now he's coming over to Google to work on the Photos team, who desperately needs some help. They desperately need lots of help. So I think this is a way to try to gain more professional credibility for Google Plus Photos.
That's weird because, like, Vic, the head of Google Plus, is a big photo fan and pushes it. And after the Google Engineer Geek Squad sent us all their invites, and it was mainly that kind of audience, photographers kind of took over Google Plus, and you saw a huge bunch of what's hot posts and stuff, which were great photos. It was awesome. You'd think that this would be you say that they need a lot of work in this area, but it seems like that's been a focus since the beginning.
The problem is it's been a very schizophrenic focus. So Google Plus appears to be unsure who their target audience for photographs are. Is their target audience the people who are taking pictures with their smartphones and having them automatically uploaded to Google Plus and letting them share it. Gee, where have we seen this? So is it that crowd, or is it the people who have a DSLR and who are sticking their chip into their Pixel and having it automatically uploaded to Google Plus, and you've got some basic photo editing tools? Or is it the pro photographers like Craig, or even more pro than Craig, who are doing all of their processing in Lightroom and using Nik software and uploading the results to Google Plus?
And they're not going to change no matter what Google does. I don't think people like Trey Ratcliffe or Colby Brown are would even consider anything Google puts out to be used instead of something like Lightroom. And I don't think Google can ever reach something like Lightroom for those people.
But here's the problem, Oleg, is that the current crop of editing tools are catering to that side of the spectrum more than the people that are just using their cell phones.
I don't know if I agree with you on that, Alan. If you look at what Dan said about Vic, I think that's exactly where the problem is. I think Vic is one of these guys that, with the way he talks about it, I can see that that's him being so proud about what they've done for his purposes. He's no Trey Ratcliffe, nor does he try to play one. He's just a guy who walks on the beach, takes a photo of his kid, and thinks this is great, except it's a little too dark. So he drops it into a photo editor, and photo editor automatically enhances it and makes it a little bit brighter, and now he can see his child's face better. That's one thing. Second thing is it's a cutesy, convenient, kind of cool thing. You shake your phone and it shows a picture of some sort of a Christmas decoration, and it starts snowing. All of these things are basically gimmicky, nice little things for masses of people who use photography, because now everybody and their brother shoots photography with their phone cameras.
Right. So, but Oleg,
that's the target. I think that's the target.
But here's the problem: is that you have a photo editor now that lets you lets you increase the I don't remember all of the terms that lets you increase the darkness, the density. It lets you do some fairly robust editing,
right?
Some of which harken back to lomography, which is nobody but a professional photographer has any clue what lomography is.
Right, but that's because
and Oleg, let me finish.
Yeah.
And they took away the photo editor that lets you do the fun cutesy things. That's the schizophrenia that we see here.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. Yeah. So I just use Snapseed on my phone. Came with my phone, my beautiful Note 3.
No, Snapseed is nice. Yeah, I mean, and that's because they bought all this stuff. They bought the Nik package that made it available. They kind of integrated that. They did the Snapseed deal. I mean, they just bought some of these things to kind of try to. Yeah, you're right. I think schizophrenia is a good word for this. I agree.
Right. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't think that this new photo editor is bad. I enjoy large aspects of it, but it's missing things that, the not quite professional photographers want and expect, and it adds features that only the just short of professional photographers would ever use. And it does the same thing, except in reverse, on the lower end. And that's, and there's a lot of other parts to it. That's just looking at the editor. We could look at photo management, and oh my God, is photo management still a mess?
But it's a difficult thing. I think if you think about it, Alan, how many pictures we take over the years and stuff, I don't know if anybody can do anything to make some sense of it, to be robust. And I mean, they tried to do the thing with highlights. I mean, they tried to do something about the vast volume of the deal to try to somehow deal with it, but it's a very difficult. I don't know if it's solvable.
Oh, don't get me wrong. It is a massively difficult problem. The problem is, again, they came up with they somehow amazing. I've never gotten that in a while. They somehow amazingly came up with a compromise system that is the worst possible thing for everybody involved. And that's the thing that I find most frustrating about this, is yes, the highlights are almost brilliant, but now you've just ticked off all of the professional photographers.
Right.
And you've still ticked off the total amateurs who are wondering where half their photos just went. And you've ticked off the people in between who are just want an album and don't know where their albums just went. You know, so it's not even that nobody wins, it's that everybody loses.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the thing, partially because it's a moving train. Because they're trying to get, they either buy software or they implement something new that they came up with that they think, and you know, it's the same old, like you talked about many times before, about throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Yes.
In many ways, that's exactly what it is, because they're trying to move the train forward. If they don't make any changes a la Microsoft, they know they're going to be basically ditched. I mean, it's not like they're at the top of the game anyway, from that standpoint.
You know, that's the thing. I've got to give them credit for trying. The problem is, it seems like what they're trying things way too slowly. And what they're trying, in some ways, you just have, 90% of what they try just makes me look at it and go, who asked for this feature in the first place?
Yeah. You know, I mean, they do so many things so well that I gotta believe it's definitely not due to a lack of competence or anything. It's just because you have, I think, different people. It's a vast, difficult topic, and a bunch of these people are working on it. People are changing. People leave. People come, and it's a moving train. It's a moving train, and so you get what you get, I guess. Maybe this new guy, maybe he'll do something. We'll see. Maybe he's Adobe guy. I mean, Adobe certainly has experience in dealing with professional photography. Maybe things will change. We'll see.
Well, but so did Nick, and so did Picasa, and so did we keep thinking we've got experts already in there.
Yeah.
Just go and look at what Flickr has and just copy them.
Oh, Craig's back. I know he would say that.
No big problem. I've got 72,000 pictures on my Flickr, and I can fairly easily put a handle on any photo I want. And I can't do that with the photos that I have in Google+.
And so what makes it so easy for you to put your finger on the Flickr, Craig?
Because each set that I upload, first of all, mine are primarily events, right, that take place at a certain time and place, which most people's photos are, some kind of an event, right? So I upload that event as a batch, and then that event goes in what's called a collection. So if, let's say, it's something that I do here in Florida or whatever, it might go in a collection of those photos. If it's something that happens at Siesta Beach, I have a collection of all the photos that I take at Siesta Beach. So I can go to that collection, open that collection up, and I see my sets right there in that collection. Plus, I can also, of course, keyword search them. Mm-hmm. And so there's several ways that I can put a handle on my photos very quickly in Flickr. And it's just very intuitive the way they have it all set up.
Can't you search by geotag and EXIF data as well?
Yeah, you can search a bunch of different ways, but even, like I say, even without searching, I can go real quickly into my collections. Like if somebody asks me about a PPF event photo, that's a big charitable organization up in the Frederick area that puts on events. I can go right into a collection I have of all my sets that have to do with PPF. And you can take a set of photos and you can put it in multiple collections. So it might be in that collection, it might be in my Frederick, Maryland collection, and I can go into one of those collections and let's say I have 20 sets in there. I can glance and just see the names of the sets and click on the one I want.
Yeah, but see, this is the deal. I don't think it's Flickr. I think that what should be commended is your organizational skills. It's not because of Flickr. Because you could go to Google Drive.
But Flickr's designed as a database. That's the difference.
What I'm saying is you can go to Google Drive and you can create folder structure just like your collections and sets and do exactly the same thing.
Yeah, but you'd have to make duplicate photos. Flickr is set up as a database where the photo is only there once, and then you can take that photo and you can put it in multiple sets, and then you can take those sets and you can put them in multiple collections without duplicating the photo. If I were to try to do the same thing in Google Drive, I'd have to duplicate the photo.
Yeah, true.
No.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Oh,
you can't put the photo in two sets without moving it to it or copying it to it.
Actually, you
just said Google Drive, not Google Photos.
Multiple folders. You can have one file, but I think it's going to make another copy, though. I don't know.
Craig, you said
Maybe-
Google Drive, not Google Photos. In Google Drive, you can make copies that are essentially shared in between each folder. In Google Photos, I have no idea. I can't figure
No, but
out
in
how
Google
that-
Drive, yeah, you can assign a file, which could be a photo, to multiple folders at the same time. You can do that.
Right, and the problem is that a lot of people actually have trouble understanding that concept.
Yeah, but it's like labels in Gmail, same kind of deal.
Right, but they
Well, and
understand
also in
labels
Google
better.
Drive, you don't have the interface to display them that you have in Flickr. I mean,
Well, you just look at photos. I mean, you got a collection of photos. What kind of interface do you want?
well, I mean, it's just much more graphical and just the way it's laid out.
It's a bunch of square boxes on the screen going down from left to right down. I mean, I mean, Google Drive has a nice, it's not like a list of file names. It's actually, you can have one way or you can have the actual thumbnails. It's okay. No, I think you could duplicate, like I said, I think what you should be commended on is on the fact that you're organizing things well, and when you say you can look it up by certain keywords, right. You can also put in tags in Google. If you do all this stuff, then you wind up with essentially the same result. Also keep in mind that Google is pretty smart about search within photos. You type in the word snow, and even pictures that are not named snow will come up that have snow in them. I don't think Flickr can do anything like that. Unless you tag it with snow. You see
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's pretty
But
probable.
I'm sharing my screen right now, and if I go into my collections, right, I've got all these different collections. I can just click on and then see the sets that are in those very quickly, very easily. It's a nice graphic. They create a nice mosaic for each of the collections. I'm just saying, I
Okay,
don't
so-
think they do that in Drive.
So now we can't see either Craig or Oleg's screen share.
Yeah, I don't know.
So given that, let's move on. Dan?
Okay, so next up is we actually have two topics. One which I'm about to add, but Google and the European Union have settled. What changes should we expect? And there's an issue in France. So let's begin with the EU in general, Alan.
Yeah, so this is interesting. I mean, we've talked a lot about, is Google going to be forced to show their competitors links? The result that came out is actually kind of interesting in some ways, and a fairly narrow set of changes, it seems like, from what I've been able to read. So it's things like in Google shopping results, if you did a search for grills, what will turn up are several results coming directly from Google Shopping showing you grills, plus in the exact same way and in a similar but not identical format, advertisements that are placed by others and paid for by others. So it's not like anybody's going to be getting a free ride. They still need to pay for it. And they're paying for access to Google's search results, which are interesting because that's essentially what Google is doing too, is paying for access to their own search results. And it's in some fairly specific areas, such as shopping. We're not talking messing with the search results themselves. We're talking with what are essentially advertisements. So I think it's an interesting solution to the conundrum. As usual, nobody's happy. Google's not happy. Google's competitors aren't happy. Apparently the only people who are happy are the European Union, who finally gets to put this behind them and move on to the next anti-competitive case. Kadeus, you have any thoughts on this?
I don't actually. This is one I really don't actually have a comment on.
I don't know. They seem obsessed with this, and this is all frustrating because there is no monopoly in search. A monopoly is when you don't have a choice. If Comcast or Time Warner is the only cable company, then that's a monopoly. If you have a mountain next to you and you can't get satellite, but there's Bing, which sucks, and so people.
How much of the
choose not to
search
use
market
it.
does Google have? How much of the search market does Google
I don't know.
have?
It depends on the country. I would guess in well over 50% everywhere.
It's probably well over 75% everywhere and well over 90%
Not in
most
China, though,
places.
is it?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think in China, they're. The thing is, anybody, you, me, and Oleg, could create a search engine if it was
What
better.
are the barriers to entry?
The barriers to entry are you have to come up
What
with
are
a
the
better
barriers to entry?
your brain, and your ability. If
No.
Craig and I came up with an algorithm that produced better results, people don't go there because it's geographically convenient. They don't go there out of habit. Well, there's an argument there. They don't go there because that's the only option they have. They go there because they get the best results. And so if someone else comes up with a better one, that's how Yahoo was dethroned by Google, because they were better results. And so they came up with a better algorithm. So if you know, all these people bitching about, oh, Google's a monopoly, and they're promoting their own products, go into Walmart and see a great value item right on the eye level for less. Go into Target and see their market, whatever
and
brand.
I think there's
Anybody
a bigger,
can come up with a different search engine. They have the exact same, because of net neutrality, whatever
I think
form
there's
that
a
is in
bigger
now.
point to be
They have
made
the
in
same
that.
barrier. There's no barrier of entry for anybody.
Well, I think there's a bigger point to be made in that Google isn't even a necessity. We don't even need to use it. I mean, if I need to buy something, I go to Amazon and I search on Amazon and I buy the thing, right? I don't use Google. If I need information about Frederick, Maryland, I go to frederick.com. I don't use Google. I almost never use Google. So it's not something that is even necessary that you even use. If I want something from Wikipedia, I can just go to Wikipedia and search there. I mean, there's a whole bunch of ways I can go straight to what the heck I want, and I don't have to use Google as a middleman.
But
if I want
clearly,
information about Nikon cameras, I can
go ahead,
to
Pam.
Nikon.
So you're you're on a show called Google Plus Week. Why?
I have no idea. Dan invited me. He's not the sharpest tool in the shed, so he keeps inviting me.
What's your perspective on it, Alan?
I
You know,
think I've
Craig,
pretty clearly
Craig,
made
I'm
my
just
perspective
playing.
on this already.
No, but really, Pam, think about it. Do we really need to use Google? For most of the things you use Google for, you can go straight to the source where you want the information. You don't have to use Google as a middleman to guide you to that source. We're knowledgeable.
Have you even looked at maybe 10% of the things I post? Do you think I could come up with that shit just
Without using Google?
right?
Well, you don't like Facebook, so you could probably come up with a lot of it on Facebook, for example. There's probably a lot of ways you could come up with a lot of crap on the internet without using Google. I mean, there's crap everywhere. Am I wrong, Alan? Can't you find crap without using Google if you really wanted to?
Yeah, but you
Craig,
would have to
I
put
mean,
a
I can
lot
follow
of
your
effort.
stream, but why?
You could follow my Twitter and find a bunch of crap. I mean, you could go to my blog and find a bunch of crap. You know, that crap's all over the place.
It's just so much easier to Google.
Come
the
on,
crap.
Kadesh, back me up. You gotta admit, if you want to find crap, you can do it without using Google. Tell the truth. Come on.
You know, I'm gonna just stay out of this.
Kadeus happens to know exactly what I post, so I think that maybe he has a little.
Unfortunately.
And by the way, Pam, your posts on Google Plus are not Google searches. That's a separate thing. We were talking about the Google. They were talking about the Google search.
Wait. No, what I'm telling you is, in order to find my WTF Japan posts, I go to Google, and I type in some creative keywords, and I come up with the.
But you have to admit that you could do it other ways. You just do it that way because you feel like it. But there are other ways.
It's so much easier than to try and find the 12 or 14 blogs that dedicate themselves to strange Japan shit and then, you know, search through them. It's so much easier to just go type the 2 keywords or 3 keywords and hit images and just sort through them all with the safe search off. It's great.
Okay, so you guys are all missing the real issue here. The real scandal. Yeah. No, listen, you're missing the real scandal. The real scandal is Costco. I think it's the nation's second biggest retailer. And definitely the nation's largest, the USA's largest wholesaler, right? They got rid of Hebrew National hot dogs in their food court the only food court in Costco, and replace them with their own house brand. They're promoting their own brand of hot dogs above Hebrew National hot dogs and Oscar Mayer and other brands, clearly taking advantage of their dominant position, their absolute dominant position in wholesalers in the United States, their second place position in retail in general. This is the real scandal. The EU should investigate this and set up a commission maybe to protect us from Costco, because they're obviously abusing their dominant position.
That's a very good example that you bring that up, because, for example, if I live close to Costco and I buy a lot of those kinds of items that Costco sells, and there's not another store convenient and so forth, then that might impact me more. It would impact me a lot more than Google, because, again, Google I don't have to use. There's no reason on the face of this freaking earth that I need to use Google. I do have to eat. I do have to buy groceries. I do have to do that. And so if Costco was the only place in town within driving distance to me, or let's say, heaven forbid, I don't have a car and I have to walk, right, and they were the only place I could go to, and they were using these kinds of practices to limit what I could buy, I can see where a governmental authority might want to step in and intervene, because I don't have a lot of choices at that point, right?
Actually, it's a good point that you're raising here, Craig, particularly since the issue isn't actually about search results. It's about search results for stuff that Google is selling. It's about sales results. It's about buying products. So if the issue in this case isn't that there may be other stores, but you don't know where the roads to them are, you do know where the road to your Walmart is, considering it's this big thing right in front on the other side of the street from your house. Okay? Mm-hmm. Are you going to always walk into the Walmart even if they have higher prices? And the answer is yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what this is trying to address. Not that Google may give you different search results than Bing is, but that Google is giving you shopping results where you could go somewhere else.
But I would opine that we don't have to use Google for those shopping results at all. We can just go straight to Amazon. We can go. There's a whole bunch of places we can go straight to if we want to buy things and shop around and compare and so forth.
Yes,
we don't have to use Google as the middleman.
People have, and part of it is that people are using Google because they saw it as a fair broker for identifying all of those other locations. And Google is breaking that fair broker trust by putting in their own shopping results up front. It's kind of a...
Which I think Dan and I agree they should be able to do. They should be able to do that because they're really not harming me, because, again, I've got a lot of other options and other workarounds.
How do you find out about those other options, Craig?
I go straight to their website.
How do you find out what they're...
Your only argument, Alan, could be if there's a lack of transparency.
Craig, you've heard of a company called Amazon.com, and that's great.
Yeah.
Have you heard of a company called Zappo.com?
Yeah, I've heard of a lot of companies like that I can type in the URL and just go straight to
Sheepfish.com?
Say again?
Sheepfish.com.
Sheepfish.com?
Yeah.
No, but I could certainly type in that URL and I could type in...
Yeah, but if you didn't know it...
I can just sit there and try. I can just sit there and type in URLs because it makes sense. If I want information about Nikon, I guarantee you if I type in Nikon.com, I'm going to get to a website that's going to have some information about Nikon.
Yes, but not how to buy one.
There might be some links there to some dealers and so on and so forth.
No.
But they're sponsored. They're sponsored links and they're targeted links that don't give you the freedom that something like Google would.
And I can type in NikonRumors.com, and I know there's a site there that's going to have a whole bunch of information about Nikons, and they're going to have links to like blogs and things. Go to Review.com.
Craig,
a whole bunch of reviews on different lenses and so on and so forth. I don't have to use Google. I just go straight to the freaking URL that I want.
Okay, correct. Okay, the part that you're missing is that nobody uses the internet in that fashion. Nobody does.
Well, then they might want to learn.
That's kind of the old way to use the internet. No one uses the internet in that fashion anymore. They always use a search engine. If it's not Google, it's a search engine to get around.
They're putting themselves at the mercy of Google, and Google might not have a whole lot
Craig,
of...
can I ask you a question? If I wanted to buy purple carrots, where would I go?
I guess I'd try
purplecarrots.com
first, yeah. See what comes up.
Okay, and where after that?
The point of Craig, the point of a search engine is to find something that you don't know.
For sale, by the way. So
if you knew the destination, you would type it in.
Is there any such thing as purple carrots?
Yeah. Boy,
yes, there are.
But Craig, the point is that you're using the internet. You're using the internet as we used it before.
Yeah. No, you guys are missing. No, the argument against Craig is you use a search engine when you don't know the answer. Otherwise, you wouldn't be searching for something. If you know to go to Amazon, you don't go to Google and then type Amazon and then click on the link that Google provides you. You type Amazon.com unless you're a techno noob. But when you don't know where purple carrots are, then you go to a search engine. And the question is, which search engine do you use? And most people use Google, clearly, the vast majority, but only because it provides the best results. If Microsoft and the EU think that sucks, then you know, the EU can encourage someone to develop a better search engine, and Microsoft can improve their shitty search engine.
You keep missing the point. You keep tying it back to anybody can develop a better search engine.
Not anybody.
The question isn't who can develop a better search engine. The question is who is going to develop a better way to sell you something.
I have about 15 tabs right now open in my Chrome browser to the websites I go to frequently.
Is purplecarrots.com one of them?
No, because I don't buy purple carrots. See, the things that I buy
purple carrots are healthier for you. Did you know that, Chris?
Your eyesight would be better, and you'd have a nice solid
I wouldn't
stool.
have to wear these glasses. Yeah, the things that I buy regularly. Okay, I have the websites up in the freaking tabs. They're already open. And websites I go to, the research things like Sony Alpha Rumors and so forth.
This is completely irrelevant to our conversation. We're discussing search engines. If you know your destination, you're not using a search engine.
My point is I don't have to use it. I don't have to use it. I rarely do use it. And most people, I bet you, if they organized their tabs properly and didn't keep closing the freaking tabs out and having to research again and so forth, if they kept their tabs open to the things that they use frequently, and just kept going back to those, they'd be fine.
Craig, the point of the search engine is because you're looking for something you don't know, so you don't have an open tab for that.
Yeah, but how often do you look for things you don't know? The whole reason that you're
pretty hourly. Most people look for. That's what they rely on the internet for, is to find out information about things they don't know.
Give me an example of what you're looking for.
Jesus, I can't believe we're having this conversation.
Like what? No, just give me an example.
A search. I mean, I mean, you could look at what's trending on Google and find out if you know, the mayor of Toronto when he was arrested for the first time. Who the hell is this guy, Rob Ford? What about him? And they would go to Google.
I can get all that kind of information on Twitter. That's where I get all my news. All my news information comes on Twitter.
Even on Twitter, you're doing a search. Even on Twitter, you're doing a search.
A bunch of people on Twitter, and they're all going to regurgitate that news. I'm going to see it. It's going to be right there. It's no problem whatsoever. I don't have to use Google for that. Give me another example.
Purple carrots.
Purple carrots. I'm sure that I could go to an exotic grocery, website. Probably exoticgroceries.com would probably work, and I could probably find all kinds of purple carrots if I really cared. And if I really cared about purple carrots, I would probably have a website about them in my tab open right now. Because all the things I really care about, I've got freaking tabs, and they're permanently there at a website, so I can click on the tab and I'm instantly there.
Exoticgroceries.com is also for sale.
Huh?
Exoticgroceries.com is also for sale.
You know, look.
I think Craig is advocating being off the grid. I don't even know why you have internet anyway.
And as I say, you guys are arguing with someone who uses the internet the way less than 1% of the people use the internet.
I use the internet like 1999.
I do. I use the internet the way the 1% use it. That's
Let's do the 80-20 rule
So
here.
how is
Let's
that
not even
relevant to our
worry about the
conversation
20.
about the 99%?
Oh, we're talking about the 99%? I don't know anything about the 99%. I'm in the 1%.
No shit. That's the first thing Craig said.
I'm not a 99%er, for God's sakes.
No, we're not talking about economically. We're talking about just like...
Well, it's all the same.
Being realistic about what normal people do.
Intelligence, economics, it all goes along together. It's all a package.
Stubbornness, set in the way.
It's all a package.
Anyway, Alan, you said is Alan still there?
So to balance this out a little bit, my perspective on this is I'm kind of in the middle because I do see Google's the perspective of Google. It's their service, is what they want to do, but I also see the other side as well. So I'm in the middle, and I don't really have 100% this side over this side, because sometimes I see this as the Netscape Navigator versus the Internet Explorer battle from years ago. So I'm kind of in the middle on it. So I don't really have a side.
I have a question for Alan.
I'm in the middle of it as well.
Are we talking about prominent entries above search results in a different color? Are we talking about things on the right side of the screen? Or are we talking about when people expect, because they advertise that we base our search results on the number of quality sites that link back to this link. And how
they're talking about paid. They're talking about the paid links.
No, they're not.
What are we talking about, Alan?
We're talking about stuff that is not in a different color, but that is in a different style above the search results.
And those are all paid.
I have no problem with that at all.
Well, they're paid by Google.
If Google said...
They're Google only right now.
Google advertises that they base their links, their native search results, the actual main feed in the center, right? And they can put it whatever crap they want above and next to it, all they want. But the actual thing in the center, the actual results that all look the same color, and they say these are the relevant search results. And you're kind of trained by now that when you do a Google search, you know, like the ads are on the right, the actual search results are here. There's probably some local marketing from Google above it and wherever they want to do. And that's fine. No problem with that. That's the price you pay for the free service that they provide. If they were claiming that these searches are based on relevance and quality, but at the same time gaming the system to promote their products within that set of results that all look the same, then I would say that's not transparent. But if they're putting stuff above in flashing colors or next to it, I have no problem with that at all. That's no different than Walmart having a great value box of cheese next to the Kraft box of cheese. That's the benefit they get from owning the freaking store. And nobody's forced to use Google. They use it because they want to use it. It's voluntary.
Here's my problem with saying that above the stuff that's above the search results is that there are a lot of search engines that do put unbiased search results there in that kind of format.
But Google can do whatever they want because they own it. It's their
store.
Sure,
but Dan, part of your argument is that you expect that to be different, and therefore you don't expect that to be unbiased. I'm saying that some people might expect it to be unbiased because of its presentation format.
Do you have a right to go into Walmart if you decided to make your own brand of peanut butter? And would Walmart be obligated to carry a brand of peanut butter?
Dan, I understand your argument there. I don't even disagree with it.
What's the point in building up a giant brand if you can't make money off of it? And the next guy to come out with a search engine...
good job of making money off of it without having to do that.
They have tons of competition in every space.
And I would point out that they're going to be making money by selling the other ads that are going to show up there.
So we all agree. It's settled.
Yeah, the EU basically agreed with you, Dan, and all they did was said that they have to pay, that the people, have to pay to put ads there. Was all they basically said.
Hey, Craig, Brad wants to know if you use bookmarks.
Rarely. I generally use tabs. I generally have everything that I use often open in tabs. Right now I have about, let's see, I'd say 25, 30 tabs.
Where's the noise coming from? I bet you are the biggest fan of that thing.
So I can just get to what I want instantly. Bam, just click on that thing. And I watch other people use computers. It's amazing to me. They're like closing a tab, and then 3 minutes later they're opening up another tab for the same thing. I mean, it's like, hey, why did you close it? Just go back to it. It's going to still be there.
And then Brian Schwartz says it's going to start a band called the Purple Carrots. And then Kevin Bryan said that they brought that in the house last week.
Okay, we've obviously lost control of this program. All right, so there we go. The Purple Carrots topic. Next is related here. Google tells France's privacy. Google fears that France's privacy notification order will ruin its homepage. This is an interesting story here. This is the Verge version. That's a tongue twister. But apparently, Google's trying to avoid public shaming by asking a French court to suspend an order forcing the company to notify users of its recent 150,000 euro fine. They would have to work at least 5 to 10 minutes to generate that kind of cash. Reports the Wall Street Journal, France's privacy watchdog, unpronounceable French name, fined Google for its 2012 privacy policy change. The order handed down was very specific about how the message should look. It should be placed on google.fr right below the search buttons, and it should be written in Arial typeface no smaller than 13 points. That's much larger than any fine print, and placing the message on Google's classically pristine homepage would ensure that all users would see it. So Google says, we've always maintained that page in a virgin state. The company's asked the court to suspend this order while it appeals their fine. And of course, Alan, I know we talked about this with the French thing, or with the Apple when they got busted for something or whatever it was, or in trouble based on the crazy European definition of wrongdoing, and they were forced to put something up there, and then they reworded it to their liking, and then were called out again. Is this legitimate to force a company? What are your thoughts on this? I don't know. This seems kind of a weird.
Part of the point
thing.
is meant to be public shaming, and if it's meant to be public shaming, then they should be publicly shamed. Personally, I think Google could do a lot better. I think Google, if they are smart, would turn this into a Google Doodle that they would run at the same time that they are forced to do this, and I think they could spin it such that they come out way ahead by keeping the exact letter of what they need to do and at the same time winning a PR bonanza.
In other words, like
if you can't beat them, join them.
Like when George Michael got busted doing whatever in a bathroom, he did that video where he was dressed as a cop and he's like, I've been bad, and he turned it into a. I mean, there's no way to win that situation, so he made fun of it.
I just want for the record to note that 3 of the panelists simultaneously did face palms while you said that.
I had no idea what he was talking about.
It's like the song was like, I've been bad, or something like that. He's dressed as a cop.
Next topic, Dan.
Because there was no way to,
Dan, next topic.
All right. Hands caught in the cookie jar or something. All right. I don't know anything about this either.
That's not where his hands were.
Oh dear. All right.
You went there, Dan. Next topic.
The topic is, I didn't put it in. I have no idea. Scoble talks about Google going after developers. What's this about? Alan, I'm guessing you might have an opinion on this. Our friend Robert
Scoble. This is an interesting post by Robert Scoble, where apparently there is a YouTube video out from Vic Gundotra about something at some presentation somewhere. I've really gotten really sketchy comments about this. Harold was in earlier, and he was talking about some of it, that there's now an increased Search Plus Your World results in search results that are tied to Google Plus pages. Harold was vague. Everyone I've seen talking about it has been vague about this. I don't even think we have the YouTube link there. But Scoble posted something basically saying that from one of these presentations, it was clear to him that Google was going after the hearts and minds of developers, and there were all sorts of these great new technologies that were being unveiled and talked about, like logging in with Google Plus, and tying, and deep embedded posts. And I'm looking through this list of his. Oh, and deep linking through email. And I'm looking at this post of his, going, 90% of these were announced at I/O last year. So yeah, don't get me wrong. I think there's some great stuff here, and there's great stuff that was announced, and Google is doing great things for developers. And as a developer, I'm obviously way on board with Google. I've bought into them big time, and I think it's a good thing. And I encourage other developers to do so as well. But I think Robert should have been doing some other things during I/O last year, instead of running to the microphone to speak to Larry. He should have been wandering the floor and going to some of the sessions and talking to some of the engineers and finding out some of the really, really cool things that Google are doing for developers these days. And that includes things like Google Plus sign-in. That includes the Play Games support. That's amazing. The rich set of libraries that Google has made for Android, for iOS, and for the web to support game developers. Tremendous stuff going on there. And more is coming in every month. So, yes, Google is doing great things for developers, and I'm glad Robert Scoble discovered it. And maybe it's going to take somebody like Robert Scoble to beat some developers over the head to discover it, because I don't know what Google is doing to not advertise it, because they're almost shouting their heads off about it. This is what Louis Gray does all day, every day, is try to publicize what's coming out of the developer relations teams inside Google. It's what every single GDE is trying to do, is raise awareness of our product areas and how you can develop for them. What else can we do? I see you nodding there a bunch, Cadeas. Do you have any thoughts on this?
I've never fully gotten why Robert Scoble is always, he always seems like he's behind everything. Even though he seems to get the tech and everything, a lot of times his comments and just things that he says, he seems like he's behind. And I'm making reference more towards glass-related stuff. Seems like he doesn't get everything in advance. I mean, I don't know.
Well, and that's it. I mean, he does get everything in advance. I know
hey,
he was
at
at I/O.
90s. I mean, at least he's ahead of me, right?
I mean, I know he was at I/O. I saw him there. Everyone saw him there. Fortunately, everyone didn't see every part of him there. But, I don't know what he was doing there. I know what I was doing there, and I was walking around, and, I walked over to the search kiosk and said, so, when do I get the API for Now? And they said, now, we're giving it to you. And I was shocked, because that wasn't, it wasn't a major announcement. There was nobody standing on stage at the keynote saying this, and maybe they should have been. But there was lots and lots of news that came out of there, and I certainly reported on some of these items back then. I know I wasn't the only one.
Okay,
so that's that.
I don't want to beat up on somebody.
And you're right. I'm not meaning to beat up on Scoble.
Yeah, because yeah, you did.
No, it's more confusion. I mean, on one sense, I was praising him. I was saying, yes, these are great things, and I'm glad that he is raising the attention to them that they deserve. I want to know what else can be done to make people see these earlier. Sorry, go ahead, Cadeas.
Just saying, he should have rose the attention last year when it was being presented, and not almost a year later. It's almost time for I/O again. I mean,
where is our I/O 2014?
Don't get me started. Don't get me started on that. Oh yeah, don't get me started on that. But yeah, so I don't know. I don't know. Let me just be quiet.
No, I mean, you started off by saying it's a sketchy report about a video you haven't seen, and then you beat up on the guy for allegedly
But he didn't even
not
cite the
knowing what he's
video.
talking about, and I'm saying that maybe we should see the video and see if Vic did indeed announce something new, because that's what Harold said, and Harold follows this stuff fairly well.
But here's the thing. Robert didn't even reference the video. He gave a report that had no links to anything else. Well, that's not true. The links that he gave were to the product support pages for the items themselves, which was great. I was thrilled to see that.
All right, so next is was this Harold's, or is that
This is the continuation from the previous thing. This is what Harold put in next subject.
okay? The next subject, you want me to do this one, new Google Plus page search features, or is that
We already covered it.
okay?
briefly.
So I'm not aware of this one. First Lady suggests Google Helpouts to help with student aid forms, and I know Alan, of course, you've been you actually do Helpouts, and you're very highly rated. If I'm not
I
mistaken.
still have a solid 5-star rating.
If anyone wants to troll Alan, go and go on his help out page, and but no, you're a very highly rated helper outer. I'm not sure what the term is, like attorneys
I don't know
general.
what they call him.
We got to figure that one out, right? We'll get Scoble on that.
Get the naming started again.
So what's the deal with this? The First Lady, Michelle Obama, is advocating Google Helpouts to help with student aid forms. So what's the story there, Alan?
So yeah, in some prepared remarks at a presentation about student aid forms, and this is nothing huge, but one of the things that she commented is that there are organizations that traditionally help people fill out student aid forms. They're now working with Google to set up helpouts so that the organizations will have people manning the helpouts to directly help people fill out the student aid forms. So people will be able to call in using a helpout, get some direct hands-on help to fill this stuff out, and can do it from their comfort of their own home at times that are more flexible to them. So that's using technology in ways to help people out, I think.
But don't they all just have all this technology open in their existing tabs, and they don't need any
Next subject, Dan.
Next up, the HP Chromebox is officially announced. As a proud Chromebox owner, Alan, your ghetto Chromebox. What are the spec? This is an i5 processor, right?
I don't know. I didn't even look at this one.
I wonder
I
how
didn't put it in.
apps it
so
can support.
So Alan looks, the Chromebox is a box which features Chrome. And,
Chrome OS. Yeah, we're doing well here.
I'm obviously an expert in this. Well,
I don't know.
looks over the specs.
This was an incredibly. This was a great fluff article, which basically boiled down to we don't know what the internals are going to be, but we know that it will come in 4 colors. We don't know the price. We don't know anything about it, but we know that it's a Chromebox. Oh, and it's from HP.
It sounds like many of the topics we cover tonight.
Come on.
Click, click, click. That's what it's all about.
So basically, apparently Chromeboxes are hot items because they've announced a Chromebox and Asus has announced a Chromebox, and
LG announced a Chromebox.
Everyone's got a Chromebox coming out. I have a guess at what the one of the door prizes at I/O this year is going to be. Bet you it'll be a Chromebox.
I've never seen one on sale. I've never seen one being used. I've never seen one with my own eyes. I've only seen pictures of them. Are people buying these things?
Yeah.
I mean, you did, but do you see them in the wild, as they say?
How do you see them in the wild? They're desktop units. That's kind of the point. But apparently a number of schools did buy them. They were very popular for schools for a while, particularly ones that already were replacing older PCs, had keyboards, mice, and monitors already, just needed something to go in between, in the middle of all of those. They're solid workhorses. They're good. They do what they don't do everything, but they're not priced to do everything.
And it's a great option if you already have a monitor and a keyboard, and most of us do from legacy computers. You can plug those in there, and you're just buying, what people would mistakenly call the CPU, just the box, when the CPU is really not the box. It's the central processing unit.
Maybe you should get that and replace your laptop. Then just get a Chromebox.
And I'll tell you what, don't get me started on my ghetto ass Vaio. I don't know how you pronounce it.
Well, they're not supposed to be making them anymore, so you're good.
They're selling it. I wish they'd buy
Yeah, they're
mine
ditching
and
the
sell
unit.
it. Okay, so we're all excited about the HP Chromebox, which has been officially announced. Apparently.
What does the Chromebox do again?
It's like a boombox, which
a
is why they
box.
call it a ghetto.
There's actually no Chrome in the box, which is an outrageous.
Well, then why
yet
do they
another
call it a
lie from
Chromebox?
Google. It's a
Almost
fraud.
3 hours in, and we're getting punchy.
Don't buy the lie. Okay, so as exciting as that topic was, we must move on. Verizon is
Oh, hey,
blocking.
there's a topic that we didn't cover.
Go ahead, add it in.
Really? Did we talk about the new CEO last week?
No, we didn't. That was
CEO of
Microsoft. This little company.
Why would you do that? Why would you do that? You know he's gonna melt down.
You mean
As the crowd falls into silence.
It's you know what? He's an internal guy. The only thing I can think of is we don't know yet how he's going to do, right? Time will tell. But there's the question of having Bill Gates, the legendary co-founder, along with Paul Allen of Microsoft, the original CEO, followed by the boisterous, sweaty, what's his face?
Ballmer.
Steve Ballmer, right? Who followed him. And then they started this Scroogled campaign, rather than innovate, trash your competitors. Somebody, I mean, that's just, if you can't produce, then attack your opponents. Craig's websites produce.
Well, but
he
hang on a
promotes
second,
his
Dan.
own site. You ever hear Craig trash his competitors? I mean, he trashes legacy media vaguely.
We don't really have any competitors.
Right, but like you talk about your product. You talk about how great your product is, and it works. In the real world, I mean, we're on a show. It's different.
Our product is actually kind of ghetto, but it still works. That's what's really cool about it.
It's about results. And Microsoft is
Ghetto
real
and it
flashy,
works.
but nobody's buying Windows phones.
Whoa, Dan, stop. Let me stop you right there. It's about results. Okay? What was Microsoft's quarterly profit last quarter?
I have absolutely no idea.
A lot. Where did they make all of that money?
Office.
No.
Where?
Servers.
As much as Apple.
They made it in servers. We're going to be covering where everyone makes their money in a minute.
Okay.
That'll be the next subject. Okay? They made it mostly in servers, though. Okay? This guy came from servers.
Well, let's go ahead. While you're talking,
I guess I'm
going to
have to read the next subject, so at least I can.
Yeah,
do
go
something.
ahead, Alan.
I sit here on mute for 4 hours.
Yeah,
I've just moved it to be the next subject.
Okay, so let's do this because this is tied in. The biggest when I heard the CEO, I'd never heard of the guy, but I guess he's sort of like a Vic Indotra of Microsoft. He's a head big deal, senior vice president type dude, and then he got the CEO job, and I'd never heard of him before. But the biggest question in my mind is, or the two controversies were having the two former CEOs still involved in the company, and whether it was a good or bad idea to get somebody from inside versus outside. And then the question of whether having two former CEOs, one a legend of technology, among the likes of a Steve Jobs, and Bill Gates, versus, and also Steve Ballmer, still active in the company, on the board or advisor level, and then whether that would be an easier thing for an insider who's already used to working under both of them and wouldn't be as intimidated as perhaps an outsider would, versus the advantages of an outsider who would come in with a whole new idea. So those are the things that intrigued me about this selection. What do you think about that?
I don't think they could find an outsider to come in, to be perfectly honest. Nobody's that stupid.
Didn't they interview a couple hundred people? I mean, literally? or they
Yeah,
looked at
but
a couple
no-
hundred
none
people.
of them got the job. I mean, there were rumors that Sundar was, who's the head of Chrome and Android, was in the running for it. That was a late entry that came out just last week.
Boy, I bet he got a big
there were people
Google. I bet
rooting
he got
Vic
a big
on to get the
raise.
job.
I bet he got a big raise at Google. But he's good. He's talented.
So Dan, what would you do?
So-
what would you do if they came to you and asked you to fix Microsoft and become the CEO? What would you change?
That's a great question. I would go in there, assuming I took it right. That's the premise of your question. If I were so motivated, I would. I don't know. I think they took a misstep with the. I think they were on the right idea. They were trying to address mobile and tablets, and trying to figure out a way to come up with a single operating system. The biggest nut to crack here is that there are things like with my newspaper that I can do on a desktop that I can't do on a tablet or a phone. And they want, the whole purpose of the Surface project was to try to come up with a version of Windows that would merge all of those platforms so that there wasn't a big compromise. Because when I use the Google Plus version on my phone or my tablet, they're different from what I can use on the desktop. They're different among themselves. So they don't want there to be a compromise in quality in terms of what you can accomplish and the full feature set. But then you have to understand that the full feature set is limited by the hardware. You cannot have in a desktop where you can put the fastest processor, unlimited RAM, maximum storage, etc. You're always going to have a stronger ability of what you can accomplish there than you can in a mobile device, because the mobile device is portable and smaller and more compact. So naturally there's a compromise. I think they
Dan.
kind of were on the right idea, but I think they didn't realize that you're not ever going to bridge all those things by definition of what their size allows you to do. Go ahead.
Dan, I want to make sure I followed something. So you're saying that mobile devices are mobile?
Yeah, I'm not sure I followed what I was saying, but if you did, then kudos. I just think I understand where they were coming from. They're trying to figure this. This is a tough nut to crack. They tried search and failed. They still make a lot of money, as you said, in servers. They make a lot of money from Office.
Just to I don't do this very often. Just to sort of disagree with Alan a little bit.
You disagree with me all the time.
Don't leave anything out, Pam. Go ahead.
Go for it.
So Microsoft makes a little over 40% of their money from commercial licensing, which includes Windows and Office and servers. So if you lumped that in with their consumer goods, which is another 20-some%, I still think that Windows and Office licensing makes up a pretty big chunk of their revenue stream. And if they don't figure out how to diversify that, they're not going to last.
As they've pointed out, I mean, as the article points out, it's kind of tough to figure out, to break it down further since they don't report it further. But what's the best way I can describe this? Do you know how that group includes, as they point out, bulk licensing of Windows and Office? You don't bulk license SQL Server. You charge megabucks for a single license. And if you want a second one, you now charge 2 to 3 times megabucks.
Right.
Okay, this is the sales model that Oracle learned decades ago, and that's why Oracle still makes money for some unknown reason.
Yeah,
they can make boku money.
We're switching from Oracle to SAP, so.
Oh, my condolences.
Well, I mean,
we only have
Microsoft. I mean, people talk about the disadvantage that Google Plus had, and that other search engines, or excuse me, social networks had or have against the incumbent Facebook. Right? That's nothing compared to what everybody has against the advantage that Microsoft has, being the incumbent for every company in America as far as the operating system. I mean,
problem, though,
I'm
Dan,
not talking about Pixar. I'm talking about IBM and
No,
you know,
I know.
they have
The
a huge incumbent advantage.
There's one problem, though. It doesn't matter anymore, or it matters far, far less than it used to.
That's what I was going to ask. Do you think that Microsoft is future ready?
No, I think they're riding their coattails. Clearly, they're they're still milking the fact that they are the incumbent, and that there is no other operating system and environment out there that will work with the legacy software, and that switching is extremely expensive, not only in terms of money, but in terms of training and hours, and will it work? And it's a risky endeavor, fear of the unknown. So you stick with the latest version of Windows, or in most cases, the one or two versions back, and the IT guys, you know, the whole thing with these big companies that need stuff to work, and they know it's what they know versus the fear of the unknown. And there's no alternative.
Do you think they're ready, Alan? Do you think they're ready for the future?
Yes and no. I think some of them are. Some people inside Microsoft are still trying to figure out why Internet Explorer 6 didn't fly so very well, while others are, you know, recognize the fact that Internet Explorer needs to, you know, start crawling to the future and are working their way there. There are some brilliant things coming from inside Microsoft research and development, no doubt about it. On the other hand, there's so much that is bogging them down that I'm not sure they can get past all of that. There's so much that's holding them back. I think Windows, for example, and the whole Windows 8, Windows 8.1 debacle are examples of something that's holding them back. As Dan just pointed out, companies are resistant to change. And even when Microsoft wants to change, and did they want to change with Windows 8? They couldn't. And instead they ended up with a mess. Go ahead with the quote.
AJ says that a new CEO from within, oh shoot, then it jumped away. A new CEO from within is probably a cleaning choice. What do you think?
I'm not sure what he means by a cleaning choice in this case. That, you know, it's a way to clean house?
That's what I was thinking.
Maybe much like their customer base, they want incremental rather than dramatic change because they have a fear of the unknown. I don't think it's ironic that they chose him. Maybe
no, I still maintain part of the reason why they... And remember, he was chosen not by an insider. The board member who headed the search committee is an independent board member, has never worked for Microsoft, and is now the CEO. Is now the chairman of the board, and is an independent chairman of the board.
But clearly, this had to be a consensus decision. He had to get everybody on board,
so to speak.
This was the safe. Pardon the pun. This was unintentional. This was the safe choice, right? Because they knew him, and that's the way that's pretty telling of Microsoft. They are riding the coattails of their tremendous power of incumbency, and they're not good at innovating.
That's not true. They've done some tremendously innovative things.
They failed at phones. They failed at search. I don't know if they tried social.
They have more than succeeded in the video game market.
That's what I was getting ready to say. Xbox Live is a solid product.
Right. I mean, even the original Xbox, at a point when everyone was saying there are already 3 major companies in this industry, there's no room for a fourth. Microsoft marched in with a product that was not necessarily a superior product in some ways. In other ways it was. They forced one of those 3 out, just directly out. Sega, almost collapsed in on itself. And they're doing a pretty good job at pushing Nintendo out. Nintendo is desperately trying to carve a niche for itself. Right now, it's Xbox versus PS. And the technology they've got behind the Xbox, the Kinect, that's incredible.
And then there's Bing, and if you look at those numbers of where they're making their money, where they're losing their money is in Bing. billions and billions every year.
But let's look at another example. Their cloud service, Azure, whatever, however it's pronounced.
Azure
is they're making tons of money with it. I think they're making more money than Google's making with their cloud service, which isn't really all that hard, I'll admit. But
well, part of the reason is because they market it with their commercial licensing, right? So it becomes part of the business package.
Yeah.
And Google doesn't have a business package yet. So, well,
no, it's.
I'm just saying, it's look, we run your operating system and we give you all these PowerPoint slides for you to spend hours creating and all these Excel spreadsheets that we have, for your employees to spend countless hours analyzing and stuff. And look, we also can store your data. And do you see what I'm saying? So there's a little bit of that tie-in, like Craig was saying earlier. Why do I have to go look for a new website when I can just,
Sure, in the same way that for a lot of us who are in the Google ecosystem, when they launched Drive, it was a natural extension and it's all connected and it's easy, to do. So now I pay $5 a month for Drive storage.
And our company has what they call approved suppliers list, right? So any new vendor has to be approved by somebody, corporate, right? So it's a lot easier to approve Microsoft than it is to, well, we don't have anything else, Google. In fact, we're trying to, we're not really happy with Google because we can't get our products #1 on their search list and blah, blah, blah. And there's just a little bit of maybe tension going on there. So it's a lot easier for Microsoft to just come right in and say, we got this storage for you. Allow your employees to work from home, from hotel rooms. They can work from the hospital bed. And so they sell it. Just a thought. I mean, I don't even know if that's how they do it, but it's just a thought. We're not allowed to use any kind of cloud storage at all. They forbid us from doing that, but a lot of companies do. So.
Next subject.
Well, before we move on to the next subject, going back to one that we had before about help outs, Josh Kidd was wondering when they will be. I guess I haven't followed help outs enough, but I guess we're trying to figure out when they're going to actually release it, where more people can use it. Is it just invite only, or what's the scenario with that?
I honestly don't know. I haven't been keeping up enough with how new people are coming on. I think the final question of his is actually the good one. Should just anyone be allowed on help outs? That'll be interesting. I don't know. My biggest concern is if anybody, if they don't slowly limit help outs growth, there's going to be super saturation in the market before there's demand. Not enough people know about help outs right now. And if you just have a ton of people who are supplying and nobody who's consuming, it's going to be a bad experience for everybody. On the other hand, I think some of it's gotten a little slow. I think the rollout was too slow in some ways.
Well, maybe they're just waiting on the people who are, and then maybe they're waiting on someone to do something really big and bring attention to it. That's kind of how they do all their products, so maybe that's what it is.
You mean Google doesn't know how to market their shit? Is that?
Don't get me started. Don't get me started. Don't get me started. You know me and Alec gonna battle over this.
Here. I'm going to offer to let you pay $1,500 to market this new product for us, right? And all your friends can call you glassholes while they do it. And look, come on.
I think that's their most brilliant marketing they've ever done, Pam.
Yeah,
I see pros and cons on it.
I swear to God, I wish I had something worth $1,500 that I could pawn off on my friends.
I had to educate a whole session, give a whole session with the Kansas Highway Patrol over
Exactly. You did that, right?
Yeah,
You don't
right.
do Google Glass commercials, right? Oh.
I think their glass marketing is their most brilliant marketing effort ever.
And that is lame as hell, so, you know.
No, it's working out really well, I think.
Well, I guess.
I think it's working out really well. I
If
wrote
they
a
can get
post
people to
about
pay
it.
$1,500 for something like that, God bless them. All right, so next up.
You next, Dan. You next while you're talking. You next.
So I saw a tweet. My introduction with this was Brian Brushwood, the magician and twit host of what is it? Not safe
No, we
for
didn't
work.
actually. Hang on, we didn't actually finish the other one. The other half of where's the money come from?
Oh, do tell.
So
Okay, go ahead.
So while we talked about where Microsoft's money comes from, and over 50% of it is from commercial activities, not from trying to sell a phone, it's interesting to see where Apple and Google's money comes from. So Apple's money, no surprise, 55% of it comes from iPhone sales, raw sales of a hardware device, with another 18% from iPad sales and another 13% from Mac sales. Their iTunes store accounts for 9%, which I think is interesting because then if you hop over to Google's, they also have 9% in a category labeled Other, which essentially is everything besides search and Motorola Mobility. Sorry, not search, advertising. Google makes, 83% of its revenue from advertising, either direct advertising on Google.com or affiliate advertising. That's insane. You know, and with a measly 9% coming from the Play Store, coming from selling disk space for Gmail and Drive and selling Chromebooks and all of that, 9%? That's ridiculous. Thoughts on that, guys?
Well, I feel bad for Apple, only because I see this turn into a downward spiral for them, and if 55% of their money is coming from the product that's starting a downward spiral, we have a serious issue.
And you don't think Google has a problem with a downward spiral in advertising rates?
I hadn't got to that yet. But so I guess, yeah, and so that may be a downward spiral from them, but I don't see anything stepping in, and at least from what I know, stepping in and changing the direction of advertising. So it looks like Google may be set for a little while, but they need to do some stuff.
Do you really think that so here's another way of looking at it. Google's advertising revenue percentage has gone down significantly, almost 30%, right? But their revenue has gone up significantly. And they used to be a one-trick pony, and now they're what, a 4 or 5 trick pony? Right? 1, 2, 3.
They're essentially a one-trick pony still, Pam. I mean, if you cut out Motorola Mobility, which
they did.
They got the Jay Leno treatment, yeah.
It essentially, that pie is divided into 3 pieces. Revenue gain from advertising on Google search, revenue gain from advertising on other websites, and other. Other makes up less than 10% of their revenue. And, okay, yes, you can say that that's diversifying, but it's not diversifying a whole lot.
But their advertising isn't changing pace, though. There's not signs of it changing pace.
There might not be signs of it changing pace, but Google's always been a company that I call them the spaghetti company, right? So they like to determine whether their spaghetti is done by throwing it on the wall. And what sticks is al dente, right? And if it doesn't stick, it's too well done, and they throw it away, right? So Google's always out buying things and trying things, and hey, look at, we have a driverless car, and oh, we're going to put these giant balloons, and oh, we're going to do this other weird shit over here, and we're going to back this funky little thing over here. And by doing that, you know, they either acquire innovation, acquire people who make their living doing innovation, or they take the beginning of someone's innovation and they build upon it, right?
And Pam, I love all of that. Don't get me wrong. I adore everything that Google's doing.
They've only been doing it for the last
4 years, maybe 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years. Before that, they just kind of sat back and made their money. And you know, now 4 or 5 years is nothing. And I just think that they're poised for they're in a much better position than the other two because of the fact that they're not afraid to spend their money and to try different things, and if it fails, cut their losses and move on.
I don't get me wrong. I am the first one out there to say that I am thrilled that Google is willing to spend their money on real research and development, which is what they're doing. And they're hoping to get derive something. They're playing the long game on all of this stuff. And I am absolutely positively thrilled by that. I don't know. I don't see them actually getting the other benefits from their other properties. Okay? Maps, they turned into an advertising platform. Gmail, they turned into an advertising platform. People, there's a reason why people joke that everything Google does turns into an advertising platform, and it's because it's no joke.
Have you noticed that lately in Gmail there are 2 lines of ads, whereas there used to be one? Am I imagining that, or is that accurate? Lately, when I go into Gmail, I'll see 2 ads at the top.
I don't see any ads at the top. I have no idea.
I don't either, but I have an apps account, so I didn't know if that maybe changed what I see.
I don't know what you're looking at, Dan.
I'll check. I'll check while you guys talking.
Alex Garcia makes an interesting point. It's not that it's 9% is little. It's that advertising is huge. 9%. That 9% could be the same in raw value as 50% in some other company. And okay, that's a valid point.
Pretty valid.
And I have not done the math, and it's a little bit late for me to actually do the math right now. But that's a valid point. But it still is concerning in the sense that we hear about advertising rates dropping, so it starts becoming that that other category might start becoming a larger percentage, and the overall revenue is not increasing. That's the concern. Don't get me wrong, I need to say this again. I am thrilled that Google is diversifying, but it sure doesn't look like a diversification, not in the same way that Apple diversified. Apple is a real diversification. I mean, it does music.
But
nobody heard. They got into trouble for doing music.
The difference is that Apple had a piece of hardware to sell, and then provided and they used a proprietary platform to prevent the people who bought that device from getting their music anywhere else. At the beginning, you could only get your shit through iTunes. I don't know if that's even changed.
But remember, at the way beginning, before the iTunes store, and there was a before the iTunes store, you got your music off of the CDs that you were ripping.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I'm just saying that,
I'm not defending Apple. I'm in no way defending Apple. Not even close.
Consumers purchased the thing, and then Apple provided the, secure store to get the media to put on your thing. Google didn't have a thing in the beginning. Google's first claim to fame was something different. It was something geared to companies and free to consumers. And you know what? That's the entire basis of their company, and they're not very good at selling shit to people. They're much better at getting companies to sell shit to people. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but the problem is they're not making money from doing that.
I understand that, but until they have some consumerable products that people are going to want to buy, they're not going to have the market share and the diversification that they need.
But Pam, here's the thing: they have the market share. They own. I mean, there are more Android devices than iOS devices and Windows devices combined.
Where is that in their revenue stream?
But that's it. They don't make money from that.
Make money from you using their devices and their services. So basically, those advertising pop-ups that you're getting and the different variations of it is where their money comes in.
My $700 phone, okay?
Google gets none of that.
Right, that went to Samsung.
Microsoft gets more money from that phone than Google does.
Don't they get
unfortunately?
Don't they get money from the Play Store cut? I mean, down the road.
I haven't purchased anything on. I can get all the apps. My period tracker app is free.
Oh my God! Really? Don't worry, Pam. We know. You could just ask us. We know. We feel the wrath.
Anyway,
Oh my God.
So
is there really a period tracker app? No shit.
Yeah, I'm going to review it Monday.
God.
Dan's never lived with a. Never mind. Anyway.
Yeah. We don't want to. We can go ahead and move on.
Yeah, I'm going to tag you into my post. I got to tag you into my post yesterday. Anyway,
No,
my thing is that then Google did something wrong from the very beginning. They gave something away that they shouldn't have because it.
Well, they gave something away because they wanted to get market share for it, and there was no way that they could sell it and get market share for it.
Why not?
Because there were already competitors out there that were free.
For phones?
Yeah, everybody had their own OS that they had already sunk money into. There was no incremental cost for these other companies already. Samsung already had an operating system. The reason why everyone went with Android was because Android was, almost pitching it as a competitor to iOS, stood a chance to do so, and it was being backed by Google. And it was free to them. And this is a great place to mention, by the way, that we have a show on Monday nights called Our Android Week, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, where we talk endlessly, well, fortunately not as endlessly as on this show,
Indeed.
About Android.
Is that fortunately or unfortunately?
Fortunately, not as endlessly as on this show. We actually almost made it inside an hour last week.
Close.
Wow.
But no cigar, as Bill Clinton would say.
That's good. Dan had to talk about 2 apps instead of just 1.
Are we good on whatever the hell y'all were talking about?
I think so.
Okay, so...
so we're going to move on to an even less relevant topic now.
Right. So anyway, I saw this thing. Brian Brushwood, real good guy. He's a magician and he does the not safe for work thing on Twit. He tweeted, "Does this mean that net neutrality is over?" So I forget what it was. And I'm going to share the screen to the link to Dave's blog for our viewers. And the headline was Verizon using recent net neutrality victory to wage war against Netflix. And then he shows a conversation. Basically, they were experiencing a difference in traffic between what they saw at home and what they saw with their business accounts. And he talked to a guy from his company, and they were both using FiOS. So then he shared a screen capture here from a Verizon rep, and he said, let me explain. I can see that through this trace route, the same route is being leveraged. I see that business accounts will be different from residential. He said, you haven't answered my question. It is a yes or no question. Is Verizon now limiting bandwidth to cloud providers like Amazon Web Services? He said, yes, it is limiting bandwidth to cloud providers. He said, I suppose this started recently, and this is why my Netflix quality is also bad now. He said, yes, exactly. So I saw this, and having admittedly been burned in the past.
But we won't go into that right now.
Right. With the Netflix rep. But
we won't go into that right now.
Rep, I was eager to find out what happened. So I contacted this guy at Verizon. I contacted Harry J. Mitchell, Director of Media Public Relations, and he said, quote unquote, we treat all traffic equally, and that has not changed. Many factors can affect the speed a customer's experiences for a specific site, including that site's servers, the way the traffic is routed over the internet, and other considerations. We are looking into the specific matter, but the company representative was mistaken. We're going to redouble our representative education efforts on this topic. So, taking everyone at their word, clearly there was some issue with this guy's Netflix. I'm guessing it was, everyone's watching Netflix at the same time, and there's congestion because the networks are underbuilt compared to the rest of the world. It's disgusting because we invented it and we can't run it as well.
And here's the funny thing. I assume that this guy was just a moron. He admits up front that he knows nothing about how to actually, run a network of any sort. And here he is trying to make loud pronunciations about network neutrality based on a couple of trace routes. Guy doesn't know what he's talking about. His trace routes don't even say what he's trying to say they say. And there's just a pile of misinformation with this. Everyone saw this. Everyone was cheering on, yay, this proves that Verizon is evil and violates net neutrality. And, I'm sorry, this was finding what you wanted to see in the first place.
Well, here's the thing. Clearly, there's no argument that business level service versus residential service are often treated differently. But that's very different from net neutrality. For example, I use Comcast. I have premium Comcast Business. That's how I can do this show. And I get really good, reliable service. If I have a problem, they will come that day. I call them up, and they're like an hour later, somebody's here, right? But you pay for that. It's expensive. Residential's cheaper. So there's a bottleneck with residential that you don't see in business service, but it's an equal opportunity bottleneck, and it's based on when people are using the service. That's very different from picking on one specific service versus another.
Right. The difference in service generally tends to be, and there may be other things that I'm not talking about here, but it tends to be in terms of guaranteed uptime reliability, guaranteed turnaround reliability, the maximum speed that you can obtain, the number of dedicated IP addresses that you can obtain. I suppose it's theoretically possible that they expect to have businesses use more bandwidth so they don't try to oversubscribe the business groups as much as they try to oversubscribe the consumer groups.
For example,
but I'm not even sure that's entirely true.
No, it is, because like I tried to, when I first heard the story about Comcast saying that if you exceed a certain amount of bandwidth per month, that they'll kick you off the system or limit you in some way. I went to the site that they said you can see what your bandwidth was, and it didn't work for me. So I called them up, and I said, what's the deal? I can't get my result, how much bandwidth I've used. And they said, that was because we don't meter yours. Said, we don't provide you with that because there's no point to it because you're unlimited, because you're a business customer. Now, granted, it's like $130 a month just for internet, but it's damn fast. And
right, and again, it's things like that. It's not, I would generally assume that it is not things like throttling. Although, some of it may come in that you're going to allocate 100 consumer customers to the same node that instead you would allocate 75 business customers. That's not throttling, that's network management. At any rate, this was a massive story that really just demonstrated that people don't really understand network management. And that's why that's why people act stupid.
So there we go. But luckily, I saved the day, and I'm embarrassed to say.
And we all thank you for it. Yeah, next subject.
I'm embarrassed to say I defended Verizon. I defended a big cable operator.
Yeah, I can't believe I am either. This is the company that couldn't even get a dial tone if Ma Bell hadn't given it to them in the first place. But it's the rare day. The other thing is, this guy is citing the lowest level representative, okay, who didn't even have a great command of English looking through the transcript. This is not the person I would trust to tell me whether they're actually, doing network throttling or not. This was just, Anyway, next subject.
Yeah.
We're running out of time.
We're running out of time. My last thought on this is when you put a story like that out and it goes viral, if you're either proven wrong or if a strong argument or the other side puts something out, you should append your post to reflect that. And to simply leave it up there and say you're still investigating days later and allow a myth to continue, or what is probably a myth, almost certainly a myth, that's unfortunate and irresponsible, and diminishes the already fairly low quality of blogging in general. Go ahead, Pam, and then we'll move.
The truth is that people are always looking for a reason to get pissed off at the cable company and the phone company, and I told you before, I give Verizon 5, if you include the cable part of it, the FiOS internet part, and the wireless part, I give them $500 a month. I'm not happy about that, but that's how much it costs me to have my 7 devices and 4 televisions and my high-speed internet, and then that's how much I pay. So any chance that I get to be pissed off at their nickel and diming bullshit, that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, but that's a cheap laugh. I mean, you're an honest person, Pam, and you wouldn't accuse someone of something they didn't do. And if you did put a post out, you would have the balls to say,
oh, I would totally retract it.
If it was turned out to be inaccurate, or they put up a strong defense and said this simply isn't true, then you would be the first one to say, oops, I've been there. I know you would too. All of us would. If you don't have your integrity, you got nothing.
That's right. That's true.
Except your slumber party's attachments. Okay, so next up, Kansas backs down on Kansas backs down.
We're you know what? Let's intro this quickly and then say we're going to table it, most of it, for next week.
For Monday,
this is a story that really deserves to be covered in more detail than we have tonight.
You just want to move on to how was your week and do a brief intro to this?
Well, let me the brief summary on this one, because this was a bunch of stuff bundled together. Is last week we reported that
good luck introing it without any response, but go ahead.
We can do a brief discussion. But last week we talked about how Kansas there was a bill introduced in the Kansas legislature to change what local governments were allowed to do when it came to introducing high-speed internet. And the committee that it was assigned to, the chair of that committee, has now said that it's been tabled for the moment while further information is being gathered, and the people who submitted it are being whacked around with a clue-by-4, and some other interested parties like Google are making their own presence known. So in Kansas, this is stalled, at least for the moment. And hopefully they're going to actually be looking in and not just, trying to sweep it under the rug. Unfortunately, it sounds like in Utah, and one of the reasons why... Hang on a second. I've got somebody here. Can somebody continue? Yeah, what's the problem? Okay.
Okay, so, oops, I was out of my chair for a moment there. Okay, so the basic premise of the bill, I think this is a case where I would recommend you not. Do you want to continue, Alan, or you? This is a case where I'd recommend you not be a headline reader, but actually read the bill. The bill is really interesting. Alan, you're back. Do you want to continue with what you were saying, or do you want me to?
No.
So this is a case where don't be a headline reader. Actually, read the bill. If you read it, it's complicated, tricky, and I posted it. But it's like Kansas Senate Bill. I think it's 304. I forget. But the basic premise is this: they don't want localities to be able to enter into special relationships using their facilities or whatever to benefit one particular private enterprise, unless that, which means they can't offer their own municipal broadband if they wanted to, because that would interfere with private enterprise. This wouldn't apply for areas that have a low broadband rate, which I think was something like if 95% of the people don't have at least 6 down and 1 up or whatever it is, then they're low broadband areas, right? Well, that's a big hill to climb to qualify for that. So it was, I could tell you that my office for our newspaper on Main Street in Front Royal, Virginia, has the lowest electricity rates in Virginia for 2 years running, has for some time, and one of the lowest of the country. And it's a municipal electrical system. It's actually the town of Front Royal does it, right? So you can argue about government waste and fraud and abuse and stuff and how it's inefficient, but Front Royal has their own thing. And I remember I covered it. I wrote a long article when they did it, and they made a deal with Amp, Ohio to buy electricity, and they invested in their plant. Little town of 14,000 people. They said, we're going to invest in your plant, and we get certain bennies, we can buy electricity at this rate. As a result, now, years later, Front Royal has the lowest electricity rates. The citizens there pay the least of anyone in Virginia. So there's not just bad stories about government involvement and stuff. And when you have what's basically become a utility, then I have no problem with the government, either, if they own the electrical system or what have you, making a deal to let them not have to pay rent on the poles, because you are at a competitive economic disadvantage if you don't have internet. If you are a poor kid and you don't have access to the same Wikipedia stuff and the same internet stuff and learning how to code and learning how to do things that require broadband, then you're at a big disadvantage. And it's not the rich guys who are impacted by this. It's the folks who are underprivileged, and we've got to fix this. The rural, poor folks, and these rural areas, and not just poor people, but wealthy people who have bought the beautiful house on the mountain, who don't have broadband, and now the parents have died and they can't sell the house, and it's a disaster. So we've got to address this, and this was clearly corrupt. Alan, what's your analysis of this now that we've presented it? And I encourage everyone to read the actual bill, because it's just like, oh my God, mind-boggling bad.
I think that it's interesting that we're seeing that kind of reaction in Kansas, which is good. There are reports that it's now come up in Utah, which is not good. I haven't seen the details there yet, but we had some discussion about this last week as well. And I'd love to see Harold's take on that. And the kicker, the best one, is that in Chattanooga, they have municipal gig internet already. And the article that we cited there, and I posted about it this week, has some actual numbers about usage and what you can do with it and why people care. So I think it's all pretty interesting, and we'll take it up again next week, assuming there are no other more interesting stories.
Quick question on Chattanooga, Alan. Is it gigabit, or is it just fast? Or is it like?
It's gig.
So it's straight up and down.
Yeah.
Almost like a DSL on or a T1 on steroids. I mean, it's the same up and down. It's not like what we conventionally think of. And it's had a surprisingly low adoption rate, though.
No, it's not, Dan. We'll go into this next week. It's not surprisingly low. And that's part of what is exciting and interesting about it.
Okay. All right, so we'll analysis that next week to coin a new term. We create words here when necessary. Pam Madger, how was your Google Plus week? Or do we have more stuff, Alan?
I don't remember.
You're whispering now, and you have an intruder, and so I figured.
Time to go.
We had some other stuff, but
do you want to do
we'll table it till next week. It's getting late. How was your Google Plus week, Pam?
My Google Plus week was really good. I'm trying to think if there was anything exciting or controversial or.
You could check your stream.
No. No, I mean there were a couple of really good posts that I put up that got a lot of comments and everything, but nothing I'd really want to discuss because they're a little controversial. So no, it was a good week. It was actually kind of quiet on the Plus this week. I didn't see as much interaction. There were I don't know, it was kind of like spring break or summer vacation or whatever. It was kind of interesting. It was a little slow. It was probably because Cadeas was in Kansas with his mom and grandma. So I called him out on the hoodie. He was wearing a hoodie. It was like 12 degrees or something like that. I'm like, what? Dude, I forgot my jacket. Like, wear your mom's jacket.
Was Cadeas trying to be all gangsta with his hoodie?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think he was trying to stay as warm as he possibly could because that's all he had with him.
Absolutely. So did you, were you surprised? Because we talked on the Google thing, we talked about last week, they sold Motorola and everything, and they're getting out of the hardware business, is what a lot of people said. And then they announced this new hardware product for enterprise today. Did that come as a surprise to you, or were you like, haha, they're not getting out of the hardware business, they're being selective about it?
I think Google has a 5-year plan that we don't know anything about, and I think that they've always been very secretive about where they're going, what they're doing. I mean, they make people who are top contributors in a help community sign a, what is it? A do not don't tell people shit about us. Yeah, non-disclosure agreement. They've always been close to the vest when it comes to how they make their decisions, and all we can do is speculate. But I do think that they, if they want something to succeed, they need to start marketing it a little differently than what they're doing. Although I do have to agree with Alan in this particular case that the way that they've handled the Glass release is brilliant, because it's very much the star-bellied Sneetches syndrome, where people, they covet it, and once they get it, they don't necessarily use it, but they want it. And I think that that's definitely the way to get. It's kind of like diamonds, they're compressed carbon, and people assign this value to it, and they did a great job with that. They turned glass into this commodity that created a lot of buzz, and and they did the same thing with Ingress. You know, when Ingress first came out, unfortunately, they haven't really been able to capitalize on Ingress, and you can't believe the people arguing in communities and threatening people's lives over the stupid game. But, you know, whatever. They still created this desire all through this weird word of mouth, you know, bestow a little special something on a few select people and get people to want it. And I just don't know if that's going to scale up.
Okay. I've got
anyway.
Now you've inspired
really
me to fire up. I swear to God, I was one of the first people to get the coveted Ingress invite, and I think I looked at it for like 5 minutes, and I haven't touched it since. And I still get the emails. And the NYPD just, there was a story about Google Glass. They're going to start using Google Glass, and they're testing it. There's some early Glass Explorers, so that's going to be interesting. Cadeus Kalut in beautiful sunny California.
I think you totally butchered his last name.
He said it exactly right, actually.
Can you say that again? In case Alan wasn't listening.
You said it right.
Yeah. Now, I massacred it like for 6 months, but then we had a hangout, and for like 2 hours straight, he made me say it over and over again, so I finally got it. Cadeus, how was your week in general, or how was your Google Plus week?
Our Google Plus week was very eventful, from American Airlines to freaking Dallas, Texas buying weird hoodies to everything. It was a crazy week. And I tried to do as much posting as I could, and I tried to use Glass as much as I could to try to find more bugs and such. And yeah, so yeah, that's really it. Got another person trying to use Google Plus, and yeah.
Eating a lot of ramen.
A little bit of ramen. That's the first time in a week I've been able to eat ramen. So.
Now, since we're all hungry, since we've been trapped in this hangout for 4 hours, tell us. Okay, it was ramen noodles and then a broth and then corn, and what else was on top?
Well, that's called chicken ramen, is what it is. It's chicken, obviously, ramen broth. I have them add corn.
Wait,
and how could I help?
So you're trying to tell me there is chicken in chicken ramen?
Unfortunately, that's what they name it. I didn't run the restaurant.
That's a
I
bird,
wouldn't have named it that. So, well, the problem, I think the issue is that they have so many variations. So you can get like pork, and there's just weird combinations. So this one's called chicken ramen because you have fried chicken ramen, and then there's others. So their menu's very interesting. So it's different stuff on there. So it's weird, yes. And you go in and you say, "Can I get chicken ramen?" And then they say, "You want chicken ramen or fried chicken ramen or spicy fried chicken ramen?" And yeah, so it sucks. So yeah, so that's why it's called chicken ramen. But I have them add corn and a few other things. So yeah.
And you have zero body fat, and you eat salty, fatty foods, and we're all jealous.
Well, I eat fruit to offset all that, so we're good.
As we saw one night when you ate 4 pounds
of
fruit during the show.
Yeah.
That's
for Monday. That's for Monday, actually. That's for Monday.
It's Monday, so. All right. So Tuesday, he just in and out of the bathroom real quick after 4 pounds of fruit. I'm trolling.
So Dan, how was your Google Plus week?
My Google Plus week was good, and then I'll tell you, it was busy because this was print week, so I had to lay the paper out, and the takeaway is this tragic story of this actor, so talented, died of heroin, and what was interesting is coincidental with that was our local county. The local drug task force put out their annual report, and heroin is a growing problem here. And I remember I've done karaoke for years. I do it very little now. I do it once a week. I used to do it all the time, but I just love singing, and so I host a show once a week locally. And I remember years ago I was sitting next to a guy who was the cook in the restaurant, and I was talking to him. And he was a nice guy, you know. We had a conversation, and then I found out later that night the cop showed up he was living in a motel room, and he died of a heroin overdose that night. So it's weird when you're talking to someone, just like I'm talking to Alan or Cadeus or Pam, having a normal conversation. How you doing? Everything's cool, you know? Yeah, you know. And then you find out that they died of a heroin overdose that night. So it's and I don't understand it. I don't smoke pot or do heroin or any of that stuff. Not that they're at all in the same league. That's like a scooter versus a 747, but I can't imagine that stuff. So I just dealt with that, and I saw it, and I've seen some other examples, but it was just sad. So that was kind of the thing, and something's going on in what you guys can't see. Apparently, there's some sort of situation going on. But so yeah, we put the paper out, and I was exhausted. I went from 7:30 to like 4:30 in the morning, and we got the paper out. Got it out on time, early actually. So kudos to us. So that was my.
What day is this singing show? What day is this singing show yours?
Sunday night. I'm quite a good singer actually.
What time?
I mean, it's a live show. You have to go there in Front Royal.
Yeah,
Virginia.
he doesn't do it on air.
He should. Why not? That's a part of Dan's life he's supposed to be starting.
There are videos.
Yeah, there are videos, and the number of copyright or free songs that he knows the words to.
No, I mean,
limited.
Yeah, you can't legally do that. But if you Google it's the worst ever video, but the song's pretty good, and I do a good job singing it. But it is literally the worst music video ever made. Google Dan McDermott original Sin, and you'll find it. It's like black and white, and it's awful. It was just funny. We did it for fun.
He sings really well. I mean, he's definitely a penny dropper when it comes to singing.
I have quite the leg spreading voice, kids.
I almost don't want to know what the term refers to.
What you think it does? Okay, Alan. Google Dan McDermott original Sin. You can hear me sing. That's one of many songs. I sing like 10,000 songs. Okay, Alan Furstenberg, how was your Google Plus week, sir?
Pretty damn awesome.
Really? Do tell.
Really, I celebrated 1 year of the first time I tried Glass On, and that was a milestone anniversary for me. So I wrote a huge blog post, and it was so massive I decided there was no way anybody was going to read it. So I threw it out and started over and wrote a slightly shorter blog post, which got some good feedback on. So that was good. It was fun to do, and it was good to get the feedback on it. And just a lot of other good glass work for me this week. So it was a good all-around glass week. We have this comment from Kevin Bryan. He's going to the Google Glass Roadshow in Atlanta on Sunday. We'll be getting the report in our comments on Our Android Week, Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Kevin, looking forward to hearing the comments then.
Tell me, Alan, what is your impression of what glass is going to eventually look like when it goes public? When it's in Best Buy, and anybody, will it be in Best Buy one day?
Yes.
Or is it going to continue to be semi-exclusive? And what's the price point going to be?
It won't be in Best Buy because Best Buy is going to collapse in on itself very soon. But yeah, I expect it will be mass marketed.
And I don't think the look of it will change, though. I think that's the look.
I don't think it'll be significantly different, and honestly, I don't think it needs to be significantly different. I think it could use a little bit more fashion sense, but I think the new frames are providing at least some of that. And I think people like seeing it. I mean, you may look at it weird, Dan, but I get a lot of people who accept it far better than than a lot of other things that are out there these days.
Awesome. So we agree.
Like Cadeas's headphones.
But you're the one who's going to get pulled out of the movie theater. Just kidding. Maybe not. Hey, folks, we do two shows. We do Our Android Week on Monday night, as Alan said, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific. Every Monday, 9 p.m., 6 p.m. on Monday. It's all about Android. We talk about the week's news.
In case that wasn't clear.
About Android. What an odd coincidence that the name. Also, every Friday at I don't even know why I say a time. Sometime Friday night, tune in. 8:30 p.m.
Time
Eastern
between
time.
6 and 10.
Yeah, it's Cadeas. See, Cadeas was late. That's the reason. Normally we're on time, but tonight,
Wait a minute.
you're like the newest Supreme Court justice. You have to bear the burden of all of our sins. So and it's great to have Cadeas on here. By the way, we love you, Cadeas, even though your fashions are circumspect or something. I'm just kidding. I love throwing a curveball at Cadeas. He's like trying to figure out my redneck sense of humor. Google Plus Week, starring Cadeas Kalut, is every Friday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, on YouTube Live and Google Plus. We want to thank you all very much for watching. Thanks for the comments. We appreciate it. We're going to look back through them all. For the ones that we didn't highlight, we see all of them, and we appreciate it. And thank you very much. And Cadeas is having some sort of nervous reaction. I think it's something he took. Probably pizza. He eats all kinds of bad foods and has zero body fat.
Maybe it's that Costco fruit plate.
I think so, absolutely. So anyway, Cadeas, who's still shy, but it won't be in 6 months, I guarantee you. We thank you all very much for watching, and until next time, have an awesome, epic Google Plus week. See you next time. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.